I am live. Good evening and hello. Hello to you all. Happy Saturday. I believe there are three of you or 13 of you here. I don't know. I can't quite work out the system. Um, there's 14 of you or four of you. I don't know. You've got different metrics coming up here. Anyway, hello and good evening. Hello and welcome. And hello, especially to Michelle, who says hi. Hello to Nurse Leah. So, if you're a nurse, Leah, do you work for the National Health Service? That's a very commendable thing to do. So, I salute you for that. So, cheers to Nurse Leah and Michelle. We are not quite at the opening hour yet of 7 o'clock. So, you're the early birds and you catch the worm. Socio Mario and Expialidocious and Nicola Mooney. And there we go. Nurse Leah, I do work for the NHS. I met you in Broadstairs a couple of years ago. Don't know if you remember. Well, I don't know what your full name is other than Nurse Leah. So I can't really identify you from that tiny picture that I see on my screen right now. So I do apologize if I don't remember you, but I probably met you at the Magnet, didn't I? I guess I did. I do apologize because I can't really see from the tiny picture, but hopefully in the future we'll meet again, Nurse Leah. So well done to you. You work for the National Health Service. You do a great job, people who work for the National Health Service. So I salute you. Hello to Paws, Claws, and Jaws, and Ross. Nurse Leah says, it was a pleasure to meet you and thank you very much. Nurse Leah, please send me an email, editorial@thesteepletimes.com. We will arrange to meet again. We will meet again. It's a bit like Vera Lynn, isn't it? So there we go. Anyway, now it is 8 o'clock. So here it's 7 o'clock in Britain, which is, of course, the perfect time to start all of this because it keeps the people in certain parts of the world happy because various people are on the go of using the YouTube because different people can check in at different times. And of course, California can come in and, South Africa can come in or Australia. But it seems 7 o'clock is the perfect moment, British time. So there we go. Evening to Kathy in Malta and to all the others. Expialidocious says, hello to Lady Min. Expialidocious says, hello to Lady Min.
Hello.
Expialidocious, Lady Min says, hello to you. There we go. Good evening from other places coming in all the time. So, well, thank you. Hello from Essex, T-Gun. Well, hello to T-Gun in Essex. It's a lovely thing to have all of you here from very different parts of the world. I'm sure we're going to have many more. We give a big salute to the NHS workers, says Nicola Mooney. Yes, I agree. Paws, Claws, and Jaws wants to give a big hello to Lady Min too. Paws, Claws, and Jaws.
Who?
Paws, Claws, and Jaws.
Oh.
Yes. Hello from Northern Ireland. Hello from East Sussex. We've got Nicola and Louise. Anyway, moving along, there's a few positive things today to talk about. It was wonderful to listen to Lorraine Kelly, the queen of the Gorbals gobbledygook, a lady I've enjoyed the company of on a number of occasions with. On Radio 4's Saturday Live. She was on there to promote. Everyone goes on these programs to promote something. You're never on these programs unless you're promoting. Her new novel, it comes out on the 13th of March. It's called The Island Swimmer. It's about her love of Orkney, basically. It's set in Orkney. I've never been to Orkney. That's another place that's on my little bucket list, along with the Shetland Islands. I have a fascination with these Scottish islands. I love them. And Lorraine loves them too. So, the queen of the gobbledygook, because she was born in the Gorbals in Glasgow. That's why she is known for her bizarre accent. She has toned her accent down, notably, one note. I went to a premiere of Mamma Mia, and I sat with an American film producer who was basically the man paying for the whole thing. And she had been hired to be the introducer, and he couldn't understand what language she was speaking. But I think her language is very toned down compared to other people from the Gorbals. My sister went to university in Glasgow, and she always said Lorraine Kelly does not speak like anyone else from the Gorbals. The Gorbals is a different way of speaking. You know, there are places in this world where people speak in language that is impossible to understand. It's not criticism of Lorraine Kelly, but Lorraine Kelly has been a brilliant success story. She, started out as a small journalist, and she's morphed into this brilliant force. Well done, Lorraine Kelly, and well done on writing your first novel. I enjoyed listening to you on BBC Saturday Live, Lorraine. I don't like the presenter. The presenter is a disappointment. The old presenter, Reverend Richard Coles, him and I, we used to have all sorts of dialogue, lots of fun. I was regularly sending in silly things and he would quote them. I don't have the same thing with the new presenter who presents from Wales, and she forced out the Reverend Richard Coles. Not a nice thing to do. You don't get rid of the Reverend Richard. The Reverend Richard is a brilliant man, absolutely simply the best. The whole show has declined into chaos. It's become another woke load of rubbish. Absolutely disappointing. I didn't mind the lady from Coronation Street who was on it. Her story was equally quite a nice story and enjoyable to listen to. But please, go back to what you used to do on Saturday Live. BBC Radio 4 Saturday Live was a wonderful show. It was an hour of my life on a Saturday morning between 9 and 10 o'clock that I was enjoyed. And when now it's just a bit
tacky.
Lady Men thinks it's a bit tacky. I think it's just a bit wet and drippy. I think it's a bit like having Tetley tea as opposed to Yorkshire tea. That's how I feel about Saturday Live. So there you go. I'm sure the producers of Saturday Live could not give two hoots about what I think about their radio show. But, I have been on it, quoted on it multiple times, and I think it's like Tetley tea as opposed to Yorkshire these days. So please get your house in order, get the program back on the road, and, moving it to Wales, it wasn't a good idea because you've lost all your guests. In central London, you had it a much better. It was a much better show. All this move things to the regions because we've got to be nice to everybody. It's like, everybody has to move the BBC to Manchester because it's better than being in London. No. Do things properly from wherever they are. And this came up also on Radio 4 this morning in the context of drama. So all budgets for making programs have been allocated to drama. So all these other people who make other kinds of programs, like investigations, have no budget. And there was all these people whining on Radio 4 about how they had no jobs and, they couldn't do any work and it's not fair and, it's all moved over to drama. Well, the world changes, doesn't it? So adjust. Do what I do. I'm on YouTube. Go in YouTube. Be like Talk TV, which is also on YouTube. And I love doing Talk TV, and I love doing things like that. The world has to evolve. Nothing stays the same forever. So man up, grow up, and show up, and turn up. And if you don't like the fact that you can't make your documentary anymore, come up with a better documentary. I've got a great documentary in me at the moment, and I'm trying to talk with somebody about making it. We will see how it goes. Whether it happens, it may not. But all these whiners, please stop whining. The world doesn't need whining and whinging. We need solutions. We do solutions. We do not do problems. Someone said to me about, behind me, this garden. I went out there and I got some plants and I planted them. That's what we did. It's what you do in life. If there's no plants in the garden, you go to a garden centre, you buy a plant and you plant it. If you want to make a documentary, go out there and find someone to work with to make it. If you're talented enough and you're clever enough, you'll make it. Like the plant, it will grow. If the plant is a weed, it will not.
Doesn't matter if it's a weed. Weeds are wonderful.
Lady Min thinks weeds are wonderful, but she's missing the point that I'm trying to make. If something is relevant, it will grow, it will prosper, and it will become something beautiful. If it's not, it will not. There we go. The world is full of whingers, says Socio Maro. Unfortunately, yes. Would I consider moving my lives to later at night? It's hard to join with your work times. Well, whilst I'm in France, it's impossible to do it any later than this. Yes. We want people who don't tear things down. You like dandelion wine. My grandfather used to make dandelion wine. My grandfather used to make all sorts of bizarre things.
Dandelion wine is wonderful.
Lady Min is saying dandelion wine is wonderful also, but elderflower wine, that was another thing that they used to make. I remember my mother making lots of that. I don't know what it tasted like because I can't remember, but maybe perhaps it was a little bit lethal. Maybe it went a little bit to my head. There we go. Did I see Trudeau to Trump today? I haven't looked at Trudeau and Trump today, but I saw the crying episode last night. There we go. Anyway, we need to move along and get on to the topics. We've had 13 minutes, but before we do, yes, I'm going to do a little quiz later, so I hope there's someone available to help me with the little quiz, if you'd like. I did bother to do it all by myself today, so it's going to be a bit wacky for some of you. There we go. Who was crying? Trudeau. Yes, he did a bit of crying. That's one of the things I saw. Your mother made wine from tea leaves. It was delicious, but very potent. Tea gun. There we go. And Tea Gun from Essex made wine from tea leaves. It must have.
Believe in that.
Right. Stevie D will help if I can in between a pizza delivery. Well, I hope you're going to enjoy your pizza. Are you getting it from Pizza Express like Prince Andrew, or are you going to go for an alternative local supplier, or a Domino's, or a Deliveroo? I don't know. Right. There we go. Anyway, I think enough of all of that. I think we've dealt with all of those matters. And 14 minutes in, I think I'd like to talk first, after the lovely Lorraine, about something more sad, which is Gene Hackman, the death of Gene Hackman, aged 95. A man who starred in The French Connection in 1971, Unforgiven in 1992 via Clint Eastwood, Bonnie and Clyde, 1967, the Superman films. This is a weird story. It's a very sad story. These poor dogs as well. The death of the dogs is very upsetting to many people. I think, if you look at the Mail Online comments, people are more upset about the death of the dogs than they are of Gene Hackman and his wife, which I actually think is a bit curious. People matter and dogs matter, but I think on the overall scale of things, I would make my choice, but I'm not going to force a choice upon you. Gene Hackman died of heart disease. He died of natural causes, Alzheimer's was his illness he suffered from. He died. His poor wife had died 11 days earlier, basically of a rat virus, which is called hantavirus pulmonary syndrome. So she suffered a death, and he probably wandered around that house for days on end and didn't have a clue what was going on because he has Alzheimer's. And the dogs had been brought back from a vet, and one was in a cage. So the poor thing really did suffer a terrible death. Betsy Arakawa, his wife since 1991, she died long before him. So it's an absolutely bizarre story. But, this man who was a Democrat, proud to be on the Nixon's enemies list. He spoke fondly of Ronald Reagan, however. He was an active cyclist well into his 90s. He drove sports cars. He was in Formula Ford. My questions are, he lived on a 12-acre property in Santa Fe, but where were the relatives? Where were the staff? This is an absolutely shocking situation. Shame on all these people, because why did no one check on them? If you don't hear from someone for a day, 2 days, 3 days, check on them. Always check on your neighbors and your friends, because I've read of many cases of ordinary people. There was one woman in South London. No one checked on her for 2 years, other than one woman who kept complaining that there was a smell coming into her flat. And the council did nothing. And these people, he could have been saved. I do believe this. I do believe he could have been saved if somebody had checked in. She obviously died, but nobody checked on him for 11 days. No one said, Gene, famous actor, where are you? He must have had some friends. He wasn't alien to everybody. Okay, he wanted a lower profile life, but always realize this. People should check on their neighbors and their friends. We had a friend in Broadstairs, a lady who was, a little eccentric, and she used to wander around, and we would invite her around for a sherry, and, she could come and have a sherry, and she could come and have a bit of supper, and always keep in touch with people. Don't leave your neighbor alone, because your neighbor, you never know what could happen to them. And in many cases that I've read about, it's in a city. This is slightly different because they lived on a 12-acre property, so, it would be a little harder to gain access. But where were the relatives and where were the staff? because there were housekeepers. Where were they? Why didn't they turn up? I think that this is a very strange story. I do think it is an illustration of the disgrace of the modern age that people do not pay attention and care to other people. You should care for other people. And, if he had Alzheimer's, and okay, she got some kind of weird rat virus, that's maybe different. And maybe people thought, okay, she's all right, so he doesn't need any attention because she's looking after him. But seriously, after 11 days, one of the most famous actors in the world, and no one bothers to check. No one has heard from him. I find it a very odd story. And yes, Tina Barber, I agree with you. Very strange. And I say cheers to the life of Gene Hackman and his wife, Betsy. I say, I hope other people now realize they should check on their friends and neighbors a little more often. Cheers to them. It is indeed a reflection of today's society. There we go. So I shall move along to the next topic. The next topic is utterly revolting. I don't know whether the story is true or not, but it concerns a girl who is basically a scrubber. I'm disgusted to have even read this story. I could not believe it. It concerns things that I have written about, but nobody is properly named or sourced, so I don't know if it's true or not. The Daily Mail today have written a story about a girl from Manchester. She's a student. Manchester, England, that is, not Manchester on Sea, which is where Ghislaine had her home. It's a university student named Laura. They don't give her surname. They give lots of pictures of her, and they're not very nice pictures, I have to say. She doesn't look tempting in any way, or she looks disgusting, quite frankly. She makes this Bonnie Blue look classy, and I'll come to Bonnie Blue in due course. Anyway, the story was about a girl called Laura from Manchester who offered her virginity for sale to a Hollywood actor for the sum of 1.6 million and claims she got paid. She was quite happy to sell it to the Hollywood actor, even though she claims he was a visitor to Jeffrey Epstein's island. She claims that she comes from a very religious family, a very strict family. She never wanted to be single and broke. She has no regrets. And now she hopes to become what's called a sugar baby. And the Mail have chosen to publish this. I don't know whether this is a hoax and a scam or whether this is just one of the sickest stories I've ever come across. She's now interested in men, but they must pay her $30,000 a month for her company. She works for a company called Cinderella Escorts. I've not been able to find much about them yet, but I will. She claimed that the other two men, other than the Hollywood actor, who were prepared to offer her 1.6 million, were a politician from London, a Dubai businessman, and she took along for the meeting with the Hollywood actor a doctor to confirm the authenticity of her virginity. This woman is repugnant. And this story, the Daily Mail is meant to be a paper read by people like my grandmother. Why on earth would they want to read this rubbish? It's absolutely shocking, and it doesn't even give her surname. So how do we know this woman's real? Anyway, she then continues. It was actually nothing more than an escort booking, with the difference being that I had never had sex before, and the amount paid was a lot higher. Socio Mario says, "What is wrong with girls nowadays?" I totally agree with you. She had made friends with the idea. Her parents were very disappointed at first, supposedly, but they supported her bodily autonomy. And this is what the Daily Mail decided to publish. I think the Daily Mail have lost the plot here. She said, "I got 1.6 million. I'm living in a dream. I could hardly believe that I have so much money. I bought apartments to rent out and used the rest to buy new clothes." Gosh, she must have bought a lot of clothes. "I also traveled. I didn't want to spend everything straight away." So she rather contradicts herself. She's obviously worse than the village idiot. She said, "I've now got NRA players after me. I've got Premier League footballers. I've got politicians." It's amazing how famous persons, and she called them persons, not people, like virgins. Well, she's no longer a virgin if she's slept with someone, is she? So she can't really play that card twice, can she? But she doesn't give her name away, but she's given her photos away. So she's a pretty identifiable individual. She said, "If you're a woman who flirts with these men and maybe you even get intimate, then they open up and they tell you everything. You can just ask so many questions. I'm a very curious person, and these circles were just a paradise for inquisitive people like me." She claims, as a caution, "Of course, there are a lot of risks involved. It is important to clearly communicate sexual taboos beforehand. You should definitely contact a renowned agency and never plan something like this on your own." I think that this woman, a modern day courtesan, obviously prostitution is the oldest profession. It's always going to go on. There's no way of stopping it. You can't ban it. Even the royals had, they're all, a bit on the side. You can always rent somebody by the hour, but they don't give a surname. She hasn't given the name of her agent. Is this yet another psycho? Is this worse than Bonnie Blue, the woman who's slept with 1,000 and odd men in 12 hours? And equally, I come back to Andrew Tate. Everyone goes on and on about the misogynist Andrew Tate, and I think this is the important point here. Why suddenly have we got these women, Bonnie Blue and this Laura and the other one, who are going on and on about how they sleep with rich people or any kind of people or lots of people? This is tawdry and it's tacky. So whilst we're attacking Andrew Tate, why don't we start attacking these disgusting, filthy slag women who go on about what they get up to just to get 1.6 million? It is utterly wrong. Andrew Tate is horrible and wrong. And I don't want to hear about what he gets up to. But equally, when I saw this story this afternoon of a woman who is prepared to sell her virginity for 1.6 million to a Hollywood actor, but she doesn't name the Hollywood actor. So it's probably a complete fantasy. She doesn't give her surname, so we don't know who she is. There's a few tarty photographs of her. She looks like a hooker, but there we go. She's a bit of a brass, but shame on her. She is doing nothing to help womankind as much as Andrew Tate is doing nothing to help mankind. These people have no moral compass. I am not Mary Whitehouse. I'm not trying to stop people, there's always going to be this OnlyFans. We've moved into this generation. Let people do what they want. But, boasting about having sex with 1,000 people in 12 hours, this Bonnie Blue, she's a disgusting bike and she's a disease waiting to happen. But this one 1.6 million from one man for somebody who's a nobody. She's not famous. Why on earth would anyone pay? And that is why the person concerned hasn't been named. I don't know why the Daily Mail have published this. So there we go. Right.
Ask Prince Harry.
Bonnie Blue is disgusting. Tate is back in court in March. Yes. Don't take selfies with fans. There we go. What do you think of Laura? That's my next question. I would like to ask the audience. Do you think Laura from Manchester is a real person, and she's really telling the truth that she got 1.6 million and that she spent it on apartments and new clothes? And she also traveled. She's a very creative lady, isn't she? No, Sarah Pettigrew, who is a lady I know. Hello, Sarah. Lovely to have you with us. You don't believe that Laura is real. Okay. Ange B says she's a lunatic. But do you think that this woman is telling the truth? Thracian Grape says, isn't that what all call girls do? Well, most people who work in prostitution don't flaunt it. I remember once meeting a lady, well, I don't know if I could call her such, of that type in a social setting. And she asked me, please don't tell everybody else that I do this, as a sideline. It was desperation that drove her into it. She was actually a very nice lady, but she had a lot of troubles and she needed to fund her lifestyle. And of an evening, she would go and work in a place in Lower Sloane Street. And that was what she did. And of course, I never told anybody what she did. But my friends all knew her as something else because she had another profession. But that was what she did of an evening because she needed the money. She wasn't a wicked person. This woman, if this is true, is disgusting. But I don't think the story is true. I think it's a fake story. It's a bit like the Hitler Diaries, isn't it? Things do get made up in the world. And I do think the 1.6 million pound virginity loser she's a bit of a loser in other ways. I don't think she ever got 1.6 million. Laura from Manchester. Come on, Laura from Manchester. Let's be having your surname. Let's have the real truth about you, who you are, and let's see what apartments you own. Come on, declare what you own. Let's be having you. Okay, she's a disgusting creature, says Rosemary. Yes, I agree with you there. There we are. The girl is not mentally well. Yes, I agree there. She's a moped. I would say she's worse than a moped. She's the village bike. She does get around, as they say. Did Bonnie Blue get paid? Bonnie Blue has made millions from OnlyFans. Bonnie Blue allegedly is very successful. Again, we don't know if she's made these millions, but it is a tawdry and horrible tale, and she's making more and more of these disgusting videos. She must be a walking STD. You can't do what she did and not be diseased. It's disgusting. 1,000 men in 12 hours? That's revolting. Prince Harry was very fond of the call girls. Yes, well, that's how he met Meghan Markle at a London hotel arrangement, says one of you. I will agree that Meghan is allegedly what's called a yacht girl. And a yacht girl, Lady Min has called her a different word, but I won't repeat that because it's libelous. I cannot say that, but there we go. How can you have a proper relationship if you're doing filth like that? Anyway, that is that. I just thought that this was an example of a counterpoint to everyone ranting and raving about Andrew Tate. Andrew Tate is disgusting. He's a misogynist and he hates women. But this is a woman who talks in a filthy way and thinks that it's kind of funny to share pictures of herself in her knickers and bra. And, it's disgusting. She doesn't name the actor. She doesn't give a surname. She doesn't give the name of her agent. She's either a scam or she's a psycho. She did not get 1.6 million to lose her virginity to a Hollywood actor who went to Jeffrey Epstein's island. I know it's one of the. It's not April Fool's Day yet. If it were April Fool's Day, I'd have thought, oh, well done, Daily Mail. That's a great story you've published. But the moron that shared that story, shame on you, because you didn't do your research, and you either are protecting this psycho and you're saving her up for something else, or you just thought, oh, it'll fill the sidebar of shame. The Daily Mail has the sidebar of shame, and most people love to read the sidebar of shame. It's an easy read. It's absolutely vile content. I was completely disgusted by what I read. And I'm not a religious person. I'm not a moralistic person. I'm not Mary Whitehouse. But seriously, you published this rot and you don't have sources. You don't have anything to confirm who this man was, the Hollywood actor from Los Angeles. He paid 1.6 million. He sent people to a hotel. You don't say which hotel it was in central London. Her parents, you don't have their names. You don't have proof that she bought these apartments, that she bought these clothes, that she traveled, that she's been out with NRA players, that she was with Premier League footballers and politicians. Who were the politicians? The British politicians? The Dubai businessmen. Sorry, Dubai businessman, it could be any old scammer. Any politician from London, that could mean any old crook. Plenty of crooked politicians. What kind of politician? Come on. I'd like the Daily Mail to provide some answers on that one. But there we go. Anyway, we're moving along. I've had enough of that topic. It's boring. We've now got on to another one. So, The Guardian have reported today on a woman who was abducted. She was taken in Connecticut 25 years ago as a toddler, and she has been found. So here we are. We have parallels with Madeleine McCann. And we've had all the nonsense with the Madeleine McCann scammer, the fake Maddie, Julia Wandell, or whatever she's called on a Saturday. I do upset people when I say whatever she's called on whatever day of the week, so I'll continue to do it. There we go. I don't think Julia knows what her real name is on any day of the week. Julia is a fake and a creep. This poor young lady called Andrea Michelle Reyes was taken by her mother, who did not have legal custody of her, Rosa Tenorio, and she was meant to be in the care of her father because the mother was obviously, there were problems. The father spent 25 years trying to find his daughter. They knew that she was somewhere in Mexico, but the case went cold. Now, advanced DNA testing has confirmed the relationship to her father after decades. They finally found her. It was part of an initiative to resolve 500 cases involving missing people by the National Missing and Unidentified Persons System from America. But they haven't found the bloody mother, the kidnapper. And an arrest warrant for Tenorio remains active and valid within the United States to police, adding they will believe the kidnapping suspect is still in Mexico, says the Guardian. Now, this will give all these McCann people, yet more shades of hope and nonsense. The Julia Wandel crowd, because, it's a long time since Madeleine disappeared. It was 2007. So, yes, people can be found and people do exist and they do disappear. And, there are reasons that they don't get found in the meantime. But Julia Wandel is not Madeleine McCann. So please stop sending me messages going on about how Julia Wandel is Madeleine McCann to all the people writing to me and sending me emails of nonsense. This girl is a fraudster and a fake. The girl in America and Mexico, look, it's a different kind of story. So stop sending messages about that also. The two cases do not compare. They are totally irrelevant to one another. The Wandel girl chose to get on an aeroplane to come to England and start harassing via Instagram the McCann's children, the twins. She chose to turn up at their house doing harassment. She chose to turn up a vigil doing harassment. This girl in Mexico just didn't know anything about what was going on until it was all resolved. She had a different story. So please stop saying that this is a comparable case. They don't have anything in comparison other than the fact that both of them went on for many, many years. The sad thing is people do go missing. But in this particular case, in Mexico, the mother was a kidnapper. She kidnapped the child and hid it. And the child didn't even know what was going on by the sound of it. But they still haven't found the mother. So that's a very odd story, but it's a totally different kind of odd story. I want to help other missing people. Martin Allen, my friend, his brother, he keeps campaigning. Kevin Allen, his brother disappeared in the 1970s in central London, in Earl's Court, the son of a chauffeur who worked in an embassy in Kensington, vanished, probably taken by a creepy paedophile VIP ring and probably dead. But he wants to have an end to his story. The family of Luke Durbin, who vanished in Suffolk, people who I've had contact with also. His mother does an amazing job working for the Missing People charity. They want to have justice. The family of Ben Needham, Kerry Needham, the lady whose child vanished in Greece. She would love to know what happened to her son. All of these people need justice also. So Julia Wandel, or whatever you're called on a Saturday, put a sock in it, love. You're a pain in the arse. Everyone's had enough of you. And as for your supporters, now, I've spoken with a few of you, and you know who you are, and you don't want me to express my views about her on your channels, which is fair enough. I don't want to come on your channels to be told off by all your people, but I will say right here, right now, leave the McCanns alone. Because even though I don't like the McCanns, and I think the McCanns should have been charged with child neglect for leaving those children unattended with the doors wide open, everything else, absolutely shocking behavior. This little madam is not Madeleine McCann. She was born 2 years after Madeleine McCann. She is not Madeleine McCann. She's a complete psycho. She's a complete vomit-inducing pain in the arse, and she's pretended to be two other people. Put a stop to this lunatic. Please stop encouraging her. And stop encouraging people to send her money in prison, because she doesn't deserve a penny more. Dr. Phil exposed her in America on live TV for what she is. She's a fraud and a freak. She's a disgrace. And I don't care that many of you don't like the language I use. This psychotic lunatic should go away and be locked up for a very long time, and she deserves the book throwing at her. Shame on Julia Wandelt, whatever she's called on whatever day of the week. The woman is sickening. And as for her PR man, Surjit Singh Clare, a man who was extremely rude to myself and Lady Men sitting here, we don't like him. You know, he's a convicted criminal himself for doing similar related things, you know, blackmail and nonsense. I'm sorry. I'm not going to be shutting up about this matter for a very long time. There we go. Yes, Dr. Phil did expose. Right. She's not Maddie McCann. She's a scam artist. Well said. Susan, spill your tea. I hope you're drinking Yorkshire. Right. You feel sad for the parents. The parents of the girl called Julia. Yes, I feel sorry for them too, because they brought up this girl and they've got nice photographs with her. So, you know, why she turned on them? What did they ever do to her? This girl is a clearly mentally troubled maniac. It is not correct what she has done to other people. Absolutely appalling. Absolutely appalling. I agree with what you're all saying about Cliff and Scylla. Yes, I totally agree about all of that. Yes, so there we are. She's a disgrace. Yes. She doesn't need money. She needs a psychiatrist. No, I think she needs a prison sentence, actually. I think that little madam needs a touch of the law. She's caused harm to so many people for so long because she keeps doing it again and again. Throw the book at her. Lock her up. There we go. Right. So I think we've probably dealt with the issue of the poor lady from Mexico, but what an amazing story. Glad she found her father again, and she's very happy to be reunited with her father. Sounds like the mother was a thoroughly evil person, but she didn't have a clue how to get away. 2 years in Holloway for Julia. Yes, I would say so, Anshby. Yeah, at least 2 years. She should get 12 months for each offence. That's 4 years. But of course, they will all be stuck together, so she'll probably get 12 months. I think the maximum that she'll get is 12 months, but 12 months would suit her a treat. Lock her up. The disgusting woman should never have come to Britain, and she should leave those McCanns alone, and she should leave all the other families alone. That's another point. You know, what about the other people she's harassed and pretended to be? Disgusting, but they're in different countries. So, you know, it's up to those countries and the families concerned to make complaints against her. Right. The channel exploiting Julia has been demonetized by YouTube. Susan, please could you explain which channel has been demonetized? I haven't exploited Julia. I have no involvement with her, so I haven't. Right. Atwood and Swanson, you say? I don't know. I've no idea what's happened to their channel. Sean Atwood is someone I have no problem with at all. And this Ron Swanson, I've had perfectly pleasant dialogue with, but I have made very clear to them, as I have said in multiple messages, in response to all your messages, I don't approve of their encouragement or involvement. Involvement. I will remove the word encouragement. Their involvement with this psycho lunatic. They think that she is of sane mind. I don't think so. I don't agree. So, I am completely diametrically opposed to their view of who this psycho is. And, having spoken with her PR spokesperson, sorry, I just hit my microphone. Their PR spokesperson, Sarjit Singh Clare, a man who represents the stain on humanity that is the Soham associate murderers woman, Huntley's woman, Maxine Carr, the woman who hid a child under the bed and tried to make a profit out of it, Karen Matthews, and people of that type. A man who wanted to make a sex film about raping a disabled woman with the man who was allegedly the killer of Jill Dando and then was cleared. This is a creep who went to prison himself for blackmailing an Olympic athlete to do with the boyfriend of this man who was also sent to prison. It's a ridiculous story, but you can read it in The Guardian. Sarjit Singh Clare is a stain on humanity himself. And he was extremely rude to me, and he used the F word. He claimed he was a journalist, but he also claimed he was a publicist. So make up your mind, mate. Were you a PR or were you a filmmaker? Were you a journalist or were you a publicist? What on earth are you? You claim to be everything on your website of your defunct company, that your company was dissolved in 2015. It doesn't exist. So how do you get paid by all these little things you're involved in? And I believe that David Wells, the solicitor involved in the story, has now walked away. He's no longer involved. Now, I can't get a comment out of David Wells. I have tried. But David Wells, according to all the groupies of Julia Wandell, or whatever she's called on a Saturday, Mr. Wells is no longer her solicitor, because why would anyone want to represent this kind of nonsense? You wouldn't want to get involved in this story because you're dealing with lunatics. All of them are fruitcakes. They all deserve locking up in the funny farm. Shame on them all. But, Sean Atwood and this Ron Swanson, they do lots of other things and they talk about lots of other things. And I have no personal problem with either of those two gentlemen, and I wish them both very well. But I do think that the best thing that they could do is stop being, foghorns for a fake Madeleine McCann, because she is not Madeleine McCann. They may claim she isn't Madeleine McCann, but she just wants a DNA test. She doesn't need a DNA test. The Operation Grange have already done their job. There is no need for another DNA test. So stop saying it only costs £60 and we could clear it all up, because, I realize why people keep saying, let's have another DNA test. It's just to keep the story going. Put this lunatic in the bin where she belongs. Lock her up. Throw away the key. The woman is a complete nutcase. That is my view. So there we go. Right. Thank you, Susan. Lots of people in the chat. Yes. Thank you for all being here. Thank you for all your comments. I'm sorry I can't read them all because I don't look. It's a bit hard to read all the comments whilst I'm trying to talk. All Julia wants to do is find out her identity. I think everyone knows her identity. Cuckoo. That's what she is. She's claimed to be three. Well, she's claimed to be three people, and she's possibly a fourth. So she's definitely the cuckoo in the nest, isn't she? She's definitely not who she claims to be. She's just a nutcase. The woman is a pest, and she's causing upset to a lot of people. And frankly, the British justice system had enough, and quite rightly, they arrested her because she was going to do something else, which was going to cause further upset. Shame on her. So I don't need to say that. She's not Madeleine, she's just mad, says Simon Coates. I agree, she's totally mad. Well said. You've got it right. That should be the headline. She's not Madeleine, she's just mad. My friend at the Sun ran the headline, she's fake Maddie, but that should have been the headline. Right, Madeleine long gone. Well, we don't know, but I think the likelihood of the story is that things concluded in certain ways, and the evidence points to a different version of events because no Madeleine has ever been found, and Julia Wandel is not Madeleine, and nor is the girl from California. So there we go. Right. You have found over 70,000 living relatives from Ancestry DNA. Yes, it's a fun hobby, says Susan. Yes, well, if you go on a website like that, you will find you've got lots of living relatives, of course. So that only encourages people like this fruitcake. There we go. The dogs can't lie. I agree. The Cadaver dogs, I believe in the Cadaver dogs. I believe, and I've asked all the questions, and go back to any of my articles, and my 12 questions are there. The Cadaver dogs being the key one. The Cadaver dogs, the scent of the deaf in the cupboard, the scent of the deaf in the car. There you go. Think about that. But that does not mean that I am right. I don't know what happened. Nobody knows what happened. That is the thing about this case. Nobody will probably ever know what happened. There are many cases that cannot be solved, and this is a case that cannot be solved. I can talk about whatever I wish on my channel, but there we go. But anyway, thank you, Harriet, for your kind suggestion. I don't know whether other people do what. I never said that I don't wish anything other than them well. So there we go. Anyway, my next topic, moving along. The Rishi Sunak 2-hour interview. Political thinking with Nick Robinson, the Rishi Sunak lessons from Downing Street, how he took over from Liz the lettuce. He claimed it was sad fundamentally for the country what happened. He'd had pizza with his daughters in TGI, whatever it's called, TGI Friday or something. By Tuesday, I was Prime Minister. I was walking into Downing Street. He said there was a scale of duty and ambition. And he banged on about his relationship with Boris Johnson, the Tory party's dislike of him, etc., etc. And then, of course, the madness of stop the boats. He said it was a communications concept of fairness. It's not fair to the British taxpayers, not fair to the most vulnerable people, but it was too stark a use of language. It was too binary. The context trying to stop the boats was a lesson that he should have learned. It was an unfortunate thing. So Rishi Sunak has basically tried to revise history by saying, he should have perhaps not used three words, stop the boats. Is that going to be what he's going to be remembered for? How he couldn't take responsibility for 3 words? I think he did a lot of silly things, but he's now trying to revise history. He claims he's still motivated, but he wants to use his experience of PM to do other things. He's only 44, so that's a lesson to us all. I'm not quite his age, but I'm not far off. So maybe I should think about, how I revise my life. Maybe we all should, but we could all be more like Rishi. Was he too young? There were definitely downsides, he said. And now he can't get his children into Star Wars, but he could get them to the cosmetics counter at Boots. Is that really what we need to hear from a former Prime Minister? Nicola Mooney says, I bet Rishi is not in the UK. I don't know where he is, but he's still an MP. Starmer is much worse than Sunak, says Thrashing Grapes. Totally agree with you. I say come back, Sunak, all is forgiven in comparison to this Farmer Harmer. The Farmer Harmer is awful. You can't stand Harmer, says Nicola, nor you, Susan. So, yes, we've covered off all of those topics. He does have a house in California, yes. I was expecting him to get a job probably with, Facebook or someone of that type, like Nick Clegg did. It's not happened yet, but remember this. He is married to a billionairess. So why does he need to get up in the morning and do any work? He really hasn't got the need for this. What do I think, asks Jack Smith, about Rupert Lowe and the Reform fallout? I just had a telephone conversation very briefly with Christine Hamilton, whose husband also had a fallout with Nigel Farage, as in garage. But I'll talk about that further another day. But what I will say about Mr. Rupert Lowe is obviously somebody who put his energy and his time into this Reform Party. I don't agree with the Reform Party, but, if you don't follow the rule of the Messiah, as they call him, as he called him, then you get thrown under the bus. Now, Mr. Lowe has had a very successful career in many different areas, and I read his defense. I don't know. I'm not a fan of Mr. Rupert Lowe, and I'm not a foe of Mr. Rupert Lowe, so I don't know. But, I don't like 30p Lee Anderson. He's gross. He's grim and grimmer than grim. He's been in Labour, the Conservatives, and Reform. He can't even make his mind up which bus ticket he wants to collect. He is worse than the village fool. No, thank you. So that's one of them gone. Farage, as in garage, Well, look at the way he's behaved over the years. The falling outs he's had with X, Y, and Z. He's a terrible person. Tice. He's not exactly enticing with his horrible sidekick Oakshot. You know, he may as well be called the MP for Dubai. There you go. And then there's the other one, criminal offencer. Bit of a abuser. Lovely bloke. So there you go. There's the summary of the Reform Party in less than a minute. So I hope that that clears up the air for you on that. But Mr. Lowe, he dared to ask a few questions and challenge the narrative. So they threw him under the bus. Isn't that a little bit odd? There we go. Yes. There we are. So, right. Well, if someone is ready here, we will do our quiz because we've been going for 1 hour and 5 minutes now and can't go forever. So, there we are. Right. Susan Spill the Tea would like to keep the score. Okay, and I don't see the need for internal rows, but I think you could all do very well. Harriet will keep the score as well. So we've got 2 people keeping the score. Right, okay. Well, thank you to you both. I don't know what else to say other than that. Right. Thank you to you all. If you're ready to go, we're ready to rock. What is the married name of Lorraine Kelly? What is her marital name? What is her surname as her marital name? Ange B gets it with Smith. So Lorraine Kelly is very busy promoting her book, and right, Ange B gets the first point. It's not Macintosh or MacDougall. There we go. Who did the former head honcho of Barclays and JP Morgan, Jess Staley, send emails to referencing Snow White and Beauty and the Beast? Who were the emails sent to? It wasn't Joe Biden, no. TMTB gets the point. It is Jeffrey. It was Jeffrey Epstein. Of course, he's now brown bread. And it wasn't Lorraine Kelly or Elton John, Nigel Farage, Clinton, or Woohoo, whoever that is. Right. What is the tipple of choice, the drink of choice, if you can't understand my communication, of the character Lillian Bellamy in BBC Radio 4's The Archers? What drink does she like to drink? Simon Coates is the immediate winner because it is gin. Lillian loves a gin and tonic with her tiger, amongst other people. Which London department store was sold to the Qatar Investment Authority by Mohammed Fayed in 2010? Simon Coates gets another point, taking you into the lead with Harrods. Who is credited with turning a single hamburger stand into the most successful global fast food corporation by revenue, McDonald's? It wasn't McDonald's. McDonald's is not the answer, no. who is credited with turning it into the most successful global fast food corporation? It wasn't Ronald. It wasn't Wimpy. No. It was not the McDonald's. Donna M gets the point. It was Ray Kroc. Donna gets the point. It was a Ray Kroc. He had a row with the McDonald brothers ultimately, but he turned it into the most successful business. He bought it from them. They had many a row. Which toxic trash bag former Telebox presenter is associated with Gordon the Gopher? Simon Coates gets a third point with Philip Schofield. Okay. Yes, horrible Philip Schofield, a dreadful piece of Torah. Right. We don't like Philip Schofield on this channel. He's up there with Anthea Turner and others. So, no, we don't like Philip Schofield, a very wicked man. What year was the UK National Lottery established? What year? Joyce Groves says 1995. Simon Coates. No, Ross gets the point with 1994. Well done to Ross, 1994. Continuing with the theme, which titled businessman had a hissy fit over losing out on running the National Lottery at that time? Which businessman with a title? Sarah Rainey gets a point. Another new entrant. It was Richard Branson, a dreadful man also. Nothing positive to say about him. There we go. Which cake is associated with the Cumbrian town of Kendal? Which cake is associated with the Cumbrian town? Joyce Grove gets a point with Kendal mint cake. Joyce Grove, well done to you. You join the merry throng with a point. It was created by Joseph Wiper in 1869, and it was a favoured thing of Sir Ernest Shackleton on his expeditions. And now mountaineers throughout the world love to travel with a bit of Kendal mint cake. There you go. We will learn something new every day. What is former politician Michael Portillo most associated with in terms of his television presenting career? Simon Coates, you have another point, taking you well into the lead with 4 points. With trains, we could have had railways. Where do Prince and Princess Michael of Kent live? What is their address now that they do not live at Neverlipiat Manor? Where do they live? Nicola Mooney has no clue. Joyce Grove can have the point with Kensington Palace. Well said. Thracian grapes was correct, but KP was an abbreviation, and I think we have to take the full thing. So Joyce now has 2 points, which takes Joyce into second place. Which character is J.K. Rowling famous for creating? Which character did she most famously create? The wonderful J.K. Rowling. Joyce Grove wins a 3rd point, taking her well into second place. Harry Potter. In what year was the iPhone created? In what year? It wasn't 2003. It wasn't 2006. It wasn't 2001. It was not 2009. It was not 1999. It was RL 77. You now gain a point with 2007. So RL gets a point. Who established the auction house Sotheby's in 1744? Who was the person who established Sotheby's? It wasn't Harry Potter. Who established the auction house Sotheby's in 1744?
Sotheby.
Lady Min thinks it was someone called Sotheby, and Michelle agrees. It was not Mr. Sotheby. They are completely wrong, and it wasn't Cilla Black.
Somebody.
Simon Coates gets the point. It is a man named Samuel Baker. Samuel Baker was a bookseller, and he decided to open an auction house called Sotheby's. So it is Sotheby. Mr. Sotheby never existed. So there we go. So my next question to you is, which actor played James Bond in the 1983 film Octopussy? Which actor played James Bond? It was the 6th film out of 7 in which he'd played him. The winner is Sarah Rainey, so now you get a second point. It was Roger Moore. So it was his 6th out of 7 James Bond film. In the same film, who played the megalomaniacal Soviet general in Octopussy? Who was the person who played it? And this is a great friend of mine, a wonderful man who I will be doing a dinner with, and I would like as many of you as possible to come along to the dinner. It will be at PJ's in London at some point in the coming months. So I would love you all to come along. So which person played the Soviet general, the enemy in the film? Who was the actor who played that person? It wasn't Peter Blexley, no. Donna M gets the point. Well done, Donna. You've got 2 points now. It was, of course, my dear friend Stephen Burkoff, who was a wonderful actor, who was also in A Clockwork Orange, and many other films. The Tourist with Johnny Depp, absolutely wonderful. The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, Rambo, The Bitch with what's her name? I've forgotten her name. Joan Collins.
Melissa Paradis.
There we go. He made many different films. Mr. Burkoff is one of the best, and I'm going to be doing a dinner with Mr. Burkoff. And here's my little plug, my chance to plug myself. I hope that many of you will book a ticket, and we'd love you to come along. I was meant to do it in January, but it didn't work out because of timings. So we hope we can do a dinner soon, and that you can all come along. That would be absolutely wonderful to have as many of you there as possible, given there's so many of you here in this room right now. I will keep you all updated. So there we go. Right. Next question. What is the world's favorite beverage according to the BBC's Radio 4's Greg Jenner announced today? It is not tea. No, it's not Coke. Jim C gets the point with coffee, though we did have shouting in the background, which I had specifically said not to happen. I do apologize for the shouting in the background because it doesn't add to the quiz, because the quiz is for all of you people to join in with. Who said of coffee, this Satan's drink is so delicious, allegedly? who said it was the Satan's drink is so delicious. He added, we should cheat the devil by baptizing it. It wasn't Maxwell House. It wasn't Churchill. It wasn't Kenneth Williams. No, you don't know much about coffee, it seems. It was Pope Clement VIII. Yes, Donna M. So Donna M has now got a 3rd point. You're now in joint second, I think, though other people may correct me. The first coffee house opened in Rome in 1645. It led to the coffee house culture. It was mostly students who were into coffee. It arrived through Venetian trade routes, and they wanted to make the most of it. It kept them all awake. Next question. The penultimate question, in fact. Who is Randy Gerber, the Tequila Casamigos co-founder, married to? Who is Randy Gerber married to? He's not married to Oscar Wilde, no. Randy Gerber is a man, but he's not gay, so he wasn't married to Oscar Wilde, and he wasn't alive when Oscar Wilde was alive, probably. He is married as Kathy Dando, a new entrant says, to Cindy Crawford. There we go. George Clooney and him sold their tequila business for $1.2 billion. Very well done them. He married Cindy Crawford in 1998. And my final question, which is designed for my guests tomorrow who are big into sailing, is in what year was the America's Cup sailing competition founded? What year was the America's Cup sailing competition founded? It's the oldest competition in international sport in the entire world. It only concerns 2 different countries. It wasn't 1908. It wasn't 1940. It wasn't 1921. It wasn't 1958. It wasn't
64.
It wasn't 1964, as Lady Min shouts. Simon Coates gets his 6th point. It was 1851. So, as far as I can see, I don't think I need anyone else to intervene. The winner of my wacky quiz is Simon Coates, and Harriet confirms it. That's a great success to you. You got 6 out of 20, given you have to be the fastest finger forward. Well done to Simon, because you can't exactly look up all of these things on the internet, because I wrote them down and created them myself. So they're my questions. So this is not a fix. So if anyone thinks it's a fix, please bog off. I don't need any nonsense. So 6 out of 20 is a pretty good success rate when you've got all of you other people who've done very well, like Joyce particularly, and Sarah and Donna, who've all managed to get above, 2 and 3. So well done to all of you. Well done. I congratulate you all. I salute you all. Now I say, here's our time for a few more questions. So ask me some questions. Please throw the questions at me. I'm ready for a few questions. Simon is saying he typed as fast as he could on a remote control. Well, you're very quick. I'll say you could do with getting a job in government. You could sit in Steve Barclay's office because, he was counting the ambulances. I think you should go there and help him along. In the past, obviously he's not there anymore, but you'd be very good at that department. So there we go. Have I listened to Meghan Markle's songs? I cannot say I've heard Meghan Markle singing. No, I don't think that would be very appealing. That would be like having. I'd rather eat paving stones, nails, and wasps than listen to Meghan Markle sing, I think. So, Harriet, thank you for your suggestion. How is my former landlady? I haven't heard any more from her yet, but the Mrs. Moron from Broadstairs, um, she can rod off and shove it up a jumper. That's how I feel about her. So I don't want to talk about her today. She's a bore. Would I move to Scotland? I think so, yes. Could be on the agenda. I love Scotland, and I'm a bit like Lorraine Kelly. You know, she was talking about her love of moving to Orkney. I'd love to go and visit Orkney. I've never been there, so that's on my agenda. Yeah. Right. You couldn't join in the quiz as you had a pizza and kebab. Well, I hope you enjoyed your pizza and kebab. What do I think of JD Vance? I think he's a bit of a flip flopper. He changes his politics like the wind. You know, in the past he was very liberal. Now he's all Trump. I don't know what to make of him. I don't know enough about him. I couldn't possibly comment other than, you know, everything I've read about him is that he moves around and, you know, he was Mr. Poverty and now he was Mr. Liberal and now he's Mr. Far Right, you know. The guy can't make his mind up, you know. Get with it. I don't know. I've no idea about him. William Hague, is he a friend or a foe? William Hague is a very complicated question for me because I spent a lot of time on William Hague's campaigns. I worked for William Hague in 1997 on his election campaign. I spent time with his advisors, some of whom are still friends with him, and some who are not. Mr. Hague or Lord Hague as he now is, he's a very wise and amazing man in terms of intellect, but his behavior is very, very strange. He doesn't know when to choose the moment. That's what I shall say. I'll leave it at that for tonight. We could talk further about William Hague another day once I've spoken with someone else about this matter, because I was very, very involved and I spent a lot of time when I was a teenager working for William Hague, and I have to say, you know, I have mixed views about William Hague. You know, he could have been a great prime minister, but he chose to do things at the wrong time. His judgment is odd in that sense. I think he's become a wiser person in later years. But I do not put him up there with Margaret Thatcher and Michael Heseltine as, you know, great in that regard. He was, you know, Michael Howard, or, you know, all those people. I don't know why William Hague did what he did at that time. So, yeah, that's my view on him. Did I like John Major? Well, Mr. Major was a disappointment. Let's say that. Sir John Major was a huge disappointment, but in later years, he's become a wiser statesman. As an elder statesman, he has spoken wisely. At the time of his leaving office, he was a total waste of space, absolute rubbish. But now he talks a lot of sense. His views on Brexit, fabulous. I agree with him totally. His views on how diplomacy should work, correct. I think John Major has become a better person, but I haven't seen John Major in many years. The last time I saw John Major was probably 2020, and I don't know if I'll ever see John Major again, but there we go. Right. Have I ever been to Highgrove? No, I've never been to Highgrove. No, I haven't been invited there. I'm not James Stunt, so I'm not that grand. So there we go. Will Andrew be evicted from Windsor Lodge? You mean the Royal Lodge, Windsor? Probably not. No, I think his brother will let him carry on rotting there like the rat bag he is. Right. What's the next question? The Brexit disaster. I know. The Brexit was a disaster for business. Yes, I totally agree. Every farmer hates it. It's terrible. What's done to farmers, awful. And farmers are the lifeblood of our country, yes. Right, vodka and tonic or a whiskey and coke? Well, I don't drink vodka and tonic, generally, other than if I'm with Lady Jackie, because that's what she drank, and that's not Lady Min. I don't drink whiskey and coke, no. So I'm a gin and tonic man, but there we go. I don't mind it, but I love a whiskey. My favorite song. I don't do favorites. No, I've never. I keep telling you all this. Favorites is a very silly thing. Depends on your mood. I might like a bit of Mozart, or I might like a bit of Coldplay. You know, I might like Snow Patrol, or I might like Razorlight. It depends on what I want. It could be I like Brahms, or I could like Anthony Newley. You know, it's a silly concept, the word favourite. I don't buy into that nonsense. Right, you're on the Sauvignon. That's very nice. You're on the whiskey and iron brew. Well, as we said in our quiz the other evening, what was banned from Turnberry by Donald Trump? Iron brew, because it was ruining the carpets. And that turned into a bit of an international scandal, didn't it? Because iron brew is a Scottish drink. So there you go. Well, I hope you're enjoying your. What's my favorite French wine? Again, I don't have a favorite. No, I don't do favorites. No. Down here, they all seem to like drinking this crazy Trapé or the Minuti. That's what they seem to drink here. Do I like Kanye or Ye? Are they not the same person? I don't know. What do I think about Des O'Connor? I'm not sure if Des O'Connor is even still alive. I don't know what's happened to Des O'Connor, so I couldn't possibly comment. I don't know much about him. Right. Snog, marry, avoid, Anthea Turner, Liz Truss, or Katie Price? Oh, well, none of the above. I wouldn't have any of them. I don't like that silly kind of game, so no. Right. My favorite fishing location. Well, that would have to be, of course, the place I spent a lot of my childhood, the Altnahora Hotel in Sutherland in Scotland. Those that know, that is a wonderful place that I spent many of my formative years, and I loved the Altnahora Hotel. I'm sorry it's not in the best of ownership currently and the best of state, but the Altnahora Hotel, an absolutely wonderful place. If you need to go fishing, or you want to go fishing, if you have a desire to go fishing, you know, you could go to the most remote place in England. When it snows, Altnahora is the coldest part of the UK always. And that is where I spent many of my formative years not in the coldest time, in August, fishing. And I have to say, going out on Loch Neva with the Gilly Murdo, who loved a whiskey. I've only got a tiny amount of whiskey here. I look pathetic by comparison. Murdo the Gilly was the best. He was absolutely wonderful. And how those people survive up there for the winter once the fishing people have gone, you know, the rich English people who jet in and come fishing, God only knows. But Murdo was a most wonderful man, and he taught me to fish. and we would go out in Lochnaver and we'd drink a lot of whiskey and we'd have sandwiches and then we'd have dinner in the hotel and, well, I'd be sent to bed because I was only a child. But, my father would continue. But, that's how it went. But we loved going to that place. The Altnahara Hotel. Look it up on the internet. And what a wonderful place. The most unspoilt part of the Britain left. Sutherland and Caithness, absolutely the last true wildernesses in the UK, and we need to bring back this. And I hated listening to Farming Today on Radio 4 this morning, where James Dyson, that man who sells shitty vacuum cleaners, who's a tax exile, who supported Brexit, was banging on about how great he was for farming and how he didn't want farmers to be able to do rewilding, and he didn't want beavers, and he didn't want this. I say, bring back the beaver. We want the beaver, and I say, bring back the wolf, and I say, bring back all the things. Bring back the rewilding of the land. I don't want to have intensive farming of the type that James Dyson wants to do with his stupid vacuum cleaner pointing at the nests of birds so they can go round them, and going on about computers. It made me sick to hear what he said. And he said, oh, I've got 145 million and farmers shouldn't have subsidies. They don't deserve them. Well, in his case, he's a billionaire. He doesn't need the subsidies. But what about the ordinary working hill farmer? Hill farmers earn £14,500 a year. I didn't intend to talk about this, but now you've set me off on a rant. The highest rate of suicide in males in any business is farmers, because the salary is 14,500. How can you live on 14,500? He has 145 million pounds of farms in England alone. They did not mention his Irish farms that he's also just bought. And I thought that was very bad of Radio 4. Shame on you, Radio 4, for not calling that out. But you did ask him about Brexit, and he went, oh, I don't like subsidies. Farmers shouldn't be subsidized. And they said, well, farmers from America are subsidized. Farmers from other countries are subsidized. So how could they compete without being subsidized? Him and his wife, Deirdre, the woman that sells horrible carpets on the King's Road. What a creep. Shame on him. The tax exile who voted for Brexit. Him and Ratcliffe, awful, awful people. Oh, do you love Brexit, DRH? Okay, that's fair enough. I don't mind people. You all have a right to have a different view. But Dyson was the man who made the AI chip in the Terminator. I don't know what that means. I don't like Dyson. Dyson and his wife, they're a pair of creeps. Awful people. Have I been fishing in Shetland with Norman Lamont? Asks Ross. No. I had a drink with Norman Lamont last November, but no, I've never been fishing with him. I don't know. That's a bit of a random question. No, I have not been fishing ever with Norman Lamont. I don't know why you asked. I'd be intrigued to know why you asked that question. It's a very, very random question. Right. The next question. Are the farmers being stabbed in the back? Absolutely. Yes, I totally agree. The farmers have been harmed by Starmer. Starmer is a piece of toe rag. He's an absolute shame. Disgrace. Have I seen Sean Atwood lately? I have been on Sean Atwood's program. I have not seen Sean Atwood personally in a long time. You have big eyebrows. Well, yes, maybe. So what? My friend was known as the highbrow with the eyebrow, and he was one of the richest men in the world. So maybe good eyebrows are a good sign. Maybe I could be as rich as him one day, but I don't think it's likely. He was a very successful businessman in California. He was known as the highbrow with the eyebrow, George Gunn III. There we go. So, yeah, that's my answer to that. So I don't know. Sean's book is heartbreaking. I don't know which book you're talking about, but there we go. Which Sean we're talking about? You were talking about the same Sean Atwood, but you're spelling his name incorrectly, so that's why I'm confused. Your taxes say it all. Right. Okay. Well, there we go. The farmers have been stabbed in the back. Right. I love your channel so much. Ali from Portsmouth. Thank you from Ali from Portsmouth, who uses the name Christian Adams. There we go. Sorry, on speech to text. Okay. Well, there we are. Right. Any more questions? Please bring them in. Right. Most people with big eyebrows live in Bushy. I don't live in Bushy, so. My passion is mystery. What is your passion? I like to solve injustice. I don't like injustice. I don't like people who are wrongly in jail, and I've got a number of them on my list. Omar Benguit, Jeremy Bamber, people like that. I don't like injustice. Mark Alexander, the Menendez brothers, don't like injustice. So no, that's my passion. Let's get rid of that. And of course, the terrible lack of injustice for the Lubbock family against Barrymore and co. The 9 people who went to a party and 8 of them lived. Yes. The McCanns, all of those stories. No, I don't like injustice. So no, yep. Have I met Barrymore? I have. He was creepy, says Christian. I sat at the next table to him in a restaurant on the corner of the King's Road and Old Church Street at the launch of the restaurant. He was extremely loud. I did not meet him, but I didn't know anything about any of this at that time. So even if I did, I wouldn't have been able to talk about it. But I came to know Sue Lubbock, who, just wants justice for her late husband and his family. A lady who was married to to Stuart Lubbock, daughter-in-law of Terry Lubbock, and, needs justice. Barrymore is vile, says Tina Barber. Yes, I totally agree. Luke Mitchell. Yes, well, I'm not an expert on that case, but the Luke Mitchell campaign team do contact me rather a lot, and I do think that there are rather a lot of discrepancies there, but it's a different justice system, and I have had many a dialogue with them, but I cannot comment as extensively as I can on the other cases I've mentioned. There we go. But I do think that there is definitely a need for a review of his case. But his case is in Scotland, and it's a very different thing to the Criminal Cases Review Commission. And I don't understand the system because I'm not involved in that system. I'm very much involved in cases in the Criminal Cases Review Commission in England, so I'm not an expert, to be honest. So the other people who comment on that case, I think, have more extensive knowledge, and they are the people who should talk about it rather than me, because I don't know the logistics of how it all works there. So, as much as I support the need for a review of his case, because I think there is, I think someone else should be speaking up, and it should be somebody who's Scottish. You've got to be Scottish to talk about it, because the Scottish legal system is slightly different, majorly different, in fact, to the English legal system. So there you go. That's my view. There we go. What's my favorite whiskey? I don't have a favorite anything. I keep telling you this. Please don't keep asking me what's my favorite. I like, as an everyday, here I am, Today I bought myself a bottle of the Old Famous. It's nothing special, but it's just drinkable. But I like some very nice whiskies. I love Cardew. I love Lafroig, the Glenfarclas, the Dallas Dew, Knockandu, all sorts of different whiskies. I'm a great fan of Scottish whiskey. I'm not an Irish whiskey fan. I can drink, some of the stuff. I'm not into Japanese whiskey, no. So no, you like Johnny Walker Black? Well, that's a very fancy thing to drink. But
What about J&B?
J&B, says Lady Men. There's nothing wrong with a bit of J&B. It's okay if you can get it. I don't like the Williams whiskey that they serve down here in France. It's a bit too. There's something sweet about it. It's a bit odd. I don't think they've got a good supply from whatever they've got, but that's what they seem to have. You like the Cotswold Distillery? Well, I wouldn't really associate the Cotswolds with whiskey, but I do know of where you're referring to. They make gin as well. I didn't particularly care for their gin either. So anyway, each to their own. But if we all like the same thing, the world would be boring, wouldn't it? So have I tried Irish poteen? I don't know. I haven't. No. Thank you for the suggestion. What is the favorite French food? Again, I don't have favorite anything. In France, they seem to like cooking hamburgers. Today we had a very nice chicken. That was very lovely. Yesterday we had rabbit. It was rather overcooked in sauce.
Food poisoning.
I thought there was too much sauce. What's my view on oven chips? I don't like oven chips. I like real chips. I like, proper chips cooked in a deep fat fryer. I like them double fried, all the kind of, fish and chips shop style. And again, today I heard they were trying to close down fish and chip shops in Norfolk because they don't want any more. Well, the Norfolk County Council should shove it up their arse. The more fish and chip shops, the merrier. Let's have more of those. Poteen is an Irish homemade liquor. It's like grappa. Oh, gosh. It would knock you out. Well, the very worst drink I ever had was eau de vie. And I don't know if any of you have tried eau de vie, but it took me 5 days to recover. I drank it in Annabelle's nightclub in Berkeley Square, the original Annabelle's, and we drank rather a lot of it, and I've never been so ill in my life. It was the worst thing I've ever done. It was the person paying for it paid £400 a bottle for it, I believe, but it was potent beyond belief. So yeah, your poteen is the same thing. Eau de vie is not the water of life. Eau de vie is evil. Don't ever drink it, I warn you. The very expensive stuff is even worse than the very cheap stuff. Cheap tequila will send you to hell, I believe. I've never had it. I've drunk expensive tequila. My friend is the man with the beautiful porcelain bottles, absolutely lovely bottles. The tequila, couldn't care less for it. Doesn't matter to me. But if you drink cheap tequila, you get ill, which is why people don't like tequila. But never drink eau de vie. That's a warning. You can't drink champagne. Okay, well, champagne, the reason you can't drink champagne is the sugar. The sugar in champagne gives you the headache. That's the problem. And it depends on what champagne you drink, because it's how the sugar is filtrated. That's very important. The idiot Peter Stringfellow, who ran Stringfellows, once went on about how he only drank champagne because it didn't give a hangover. And the man I worked for at the time, the billionaire Maurice Kambar, who invented Sky Vodka, rightly said, and he was known as the hangover-free vodka man. He said, "I want to meet Longfellow," as he called him. He didn't. So we went to meet Mr. Stringfellow, he called Longfellow. And Stringfellow didn't understand. He was completely thick. It's the sugar in alcohol that gives you the headache. Why do alcoholics always drink vodka? Because vodka is a neutral spirit. It is clear and it's got nothing in it. It is essentially just pure alcohol. When you add things to alcohol, like a whiskey, so you get color, the color comes from the additions. And the additions are what give you headaches. So if you drink gin, you add juniper in its simplest form. Vodka is a neutral spirit. And vodka in its simplest form should not give you a headache unless it's cheap vodka and terrible vodka and badly made vodka. But all other alcohols are bastardized versions of that, and ultimately will give you a headache. Brandy, cognac, whiskey, anything that's got color, the worse the more the color, the worse it is, probably. I'm simplifying matters here, but there we go. But this is why all alcoholics always go for a vodka and soda, because tonic water has sugar in it. It's another thing that gives you headache. So there we go. So DMB is DMH, or sorry, whatever you're called. Vodka and soda is the drink. Nicola Mooney will stick to wine, no turning. There we go. Anyway, let's move away from that particular question. Let's have a final few questions as we're approaching 10 o'clock French time. It's nearly 9 o'clock English time. So if you'd like a few more questions, we've got a little bit of time to go. Right. Schweppes. Yeah, if I could have any tonic water, it would be Schweppes. I don't like Fever Tree, no. But I like small bottles and cans. I prefer cans, in fact, because cans don't go off. Those big bottles are a complete waste of space. All White's lemonade. No thanks. I love lemonade, but I don't like French lemonade. I tried some of that the other day. That was another thing that poisoned me. No, thank you. It tasted like drinking chemicals. It made me feel very sick. No, I don't get sick very often, but this horrible lemonade, I drank a pint of it and I was ill for about 2 hours, 4 hours. Anyway, have I looked into the disappearance of Andrew Gosden? Yes, I have looked into it. I don't know the family of Andrew Gosden. The poor boy who got on the train, he was an 11, 12-year-old or 13-year-old or whatever he was, bit of a gothic. He got to King's Cross and then never found again. Very odd. He took out £200 in cash, if I recall. I may be wrong on the number, but I've studied the story. I watched videos. I've never looked into it in detail, but it doesn't make sense. He must have been doing things online with somebody or other. He was clearly a little bit of a confused young man, and he just vanished. But that poor family, I feel for them. I don't know. I have no idea what could have happened to him. He got to London, and then the CCTV, he vanished. How can you just vanish when you get to a major city? It doesn't make sense. So, something isn't quite right with the CCTV, but the Metropolitan Police, yet again incompetent, didn't bother to check the CCTV, and lots of CCTV systems delete after a period of time. So I'm very, very sorry for the family. I can't remember where he's from, but I think he was about 11 or 12, and I think he took out £200 in cash. I don't know why, but that's the number coming into my head. I could be completely wrong on that score, but, whatever it is, that poor boy's family would love to know if he's still alive. And people like the girl I mentioned, you can be found later, but I think it's highly unlikely. So there we are. Are mini cheddars baked with real cheese? Is it cheddar? I cannot possibly comment on the secret process of making mini cheddars. That's not my department. I just love a mini cheddar. That's all I shall say on that front. I have no idea how they make mini cheddars. I just love the taste. I miss them. I love Yorkshire tea and I love mini cheddars. There we go. Right. Have I ever met Julia Wendell? Christian Adams asked. No, I have never met Julia Wendell, or whatever she's called, on a Saturday. Julia Wandell is the name that she was charged under. Julia Wandelt is another name she uses. She has pretended to be multiple people. I don't know who you are or what your involvement is with her, or if you just are asking a question, but I think that Julia Wandell deserves to be put in prison for a very long time. Lock her up. Throw away the key. She's a sick, evil pain in the arse. That's all I have to say about her. So if you want to explain your relationship to her to me, you're very welcome if you have one. And if you don't, if you haven't got a relationship, I apologize for asking why you asked the question. There we go. Why did the Princess of Wales disappear for 8 months? Well, there's a pretty obvious answer to that. DRH. The poor lady had cancer. So, she was ill. Can't really say any more. Right. Have I met Hugh Grant? Yes, I've met Hugh Grant on multiple occasions. Don't really have any particular view on him. He's not my favorite actor. He's not my favorite person, but he's never done me any harm. So Hugh Grant, that's all I shall say. Right. There we go on that one. Right. Young blonde boys go missing. They all look a bit similar. Well, lots of people go missing. Thousands of people go missing a year, Celia. I can tell you, many thousands of people go missing a year. Some of them are young, some of them are old, some of them are white, some of them are black, some of them are Pakistani, some of them are Asian, some of them are, from Wagadoodle. Lots of people go missing. They're not all young blonde boys. I don't get your point. So sorry. Don't get that one. There we go. Right. Nicola thinks we have a troll here. I don't know who the troll is, but there we go. Anyway, what do I think about Richard E. Grant? Well, Lady Min and I were talking about Richard E. Grant earlier, and we have a view on his. He changed his name, but as I explained to her,
He's South African bezedenheid.
but he had to change his name for the sake of his films. And I think that he was a brilliant actor in With Nail and I. I'm not sure about some of his other performances. I'm not a fan of some of them, but I think that overall, I think he adds to the colourful nature of society. I don't think he does any harm. He's not Cliff Richard. He's not Elton John. He's not Victoria Beckham. He's not, Hannah Ingram Moore. He hasn't done any harm to anyone. I think, give him a pass. Okay. You think he's the bee's knees? Well, there we go. Yes, Richard Grant Esterhuizen, says Simon Coates. There we go. It's a shame the BBC axed Crime Watch. Yes, Ross, I agree. Crime Watch was a good programme that did some good for the world, but the BBC doesn't have any money to fund that kind of programming anymore because all they do is spend it on woke nonsense, woke dramas that are, bigging up the whatever, which I can't say. What do I think about Gosford Park? Well, Julian Fellows, a lovely friend, nice man, very successful, won an Oscar. His Downton Abbey was very popular. Not my kind of program, but he's a brilliantly successful man. He was in Tales of the Unexpected. He did many other things. Mr. Lord Fellows has been a great achiever in life, and he's entertained many people and makes a lot of people happy. My own grandmother, and I'm not going to go into matters about that. My own grandmother is a great fan of Downton Abbey, so there you go. So it can't have done all that wrong if she liked it. So there we go. I'll leave it at that. Crime Watch, Nick Ross is now a German citizen. I don't know if that's true or not, Simon, but he did live in Notting Hill, the last I heard of him. So I don't know what became of him. Right. You could make an entire 24/7 Crime Watch channel these days. Sean Atwood does that, doesn't he? He talks about crime and other things on his channel. So yeah, he does that, and other people do too. There are thousands of podcasts donated to purely hours of speculation about solving the murder of X, Y, and Z, and the Jack the Ripper, which frankly will never be solved because it's a little bit late. And anyone who goes on about the craze, please, why don't you put a sock in it? Boring. We've all had enough of the craze. Well, I have, but obviously someone else hasn't. The people who make programs about the craze, I tell them, bog off. Don't want to hear any more from you. And you all love my bog off, so that's why I say it. Jill Dando, yes, well, Jill Dando was a poor, tragic woman whose life was taken too young. The situation with this Barry George, who's involved with this Sarjit Singh Claire, and I'd spoken with Barry George's sister, but I don't know anything about Barry George other than clearly he had a lot of other problems, and then he got involved with Sarjit Singh Claire. Well, that doesn't give me much confidence in things about him, but that does not mean that he did anything, and he was completely cleared in the case of Jill Dando, and he was rightly recompensed for the wrongdoing that was done to him. It's like Andrew Malkinson, the poor man who was convicted of raping someone in 1993, and then they found he was not guilty now, 20 odd years later, and then they tried to charge him for his board, bed, and lodgings whilst he was in prison. That is sick in the head. And well done to the campaign that got over £1 million in an interim payment. He needs far more than £1 million for just having his damn life taken away. There's someone else I know currently, Noel Clark. He is suing The Guardian because they've wrecked his career, and he wants £70 million because of what they've done to him over his BAFTA award and his wrecking his acting career. The biggest award ever in libel was 1.5 million, and this poor man who's been kept in prison gets only £1 million. He has been locked up with horrible people who he should never have been locked up with because he did nothing. He did nout. He did zero. He did zilch. He did zada. He is a completely innocent man, and his life was taken away. He was ruined and named and shamed as a rapist. And of course, there will still be, and I spoke with Christine Hamilton this evening. Mrs. Hamilton and her husband were falsely accused because of Max Clifford of raping a woman who they never met. And they were completely exonerated ultimately because it was all set up by Mohammed Fayed and Max Clifford. And this woman was sent to prison for what she did. But, forevermore, people of that type, if you are ever accused of a sex crime, people go, oh, well, there must be no smoke without fire. That poor man spent 20 odd years in jail, and he gets £1 million after they try and bill him, and he's got no money because he spent all his money on his legal defense, and they try and bill him. That is wrong. It's morally sickening. It's wrong. And Andrew Malkinson deserves to destroy the British justice system because it's an injustice system for what they did to him. I don't like the way he was treated. I really don't. There we go. What did I make of the story of Neil Hamilton when he was an MP? Well, I knew the Hamiltons, and I still know the Hamiltons. And, Mr. Fayed was a very bad man. Let's see what comes out in the wash. I think now he's dead. And now Iris Bond is dead, who was a lady I knew, who was his head PR secretary. And she was a main witness against them. We will see what happens. Hamiltons are a funny pair, yes. Christine Hamilton gave a speech at my 21st birthday party. So there you go. There's your funny fact for the evening. Katie Hopkins. No, I don't like Katie Hopkins. She is a vile weirdo. She's involved with that awful man called Alex Belfield and that terrible Tommy Robinson. That says it all. I met her at a party, and weirdly, I was stood next to Cathy Lett, the novelist, and Helen Lederer and Peter Mandelson. It's the only time I've ever met Peter Mandelson, and I don't think he should be ambassador to the America for Britain. No. They made a strange music video for the 2006 World Cup, I think. I think it was called Ross. It was called England is Jolly D. I remember it well, yes. Father Calvin getting cancelled. I've had correspondence with Father Calvin. He's certainly not my kind of person. No, he's a grifter, awful person, terrible. Right. Paul Thorpe wants to pay for Katie Price to have a meeting with JD Vance. I don't know who Paul Thorpe is, so I do apologize, Sam Arama. I don't know who Paul Thorpe is. So PT is a weirdo, yes. Peter Mandelson, yes. Petty, as he was called by Epstein, yes. Not on my agenda. Helen Lederer is great. Yes, I love Helen Lederer. She's a lovely, jolly lady. I've judged a cocktail competition with her. She loves a bit of booze. She's great fun. Always up for a good old drink, and used to come down to the La Brasserie in South Kensington. We used to have great fun, her and I. Father Calvin, aka Sideshow God. He's just a complete lunatic. There we go. Right. Hopkins was horrible on The Apprentice. Well, it was worse when she was shagging in a field, I think. Let's never forget that. There we go. Helen Lederer is someone who is funny without even doing anything. You would love to meet her, says Miss Marple. Well, at the Brasserie, we had a wonderful evening judging a cocktail competition. I can't remember who else was in the cocktail competition, and I honestly will say she was absolutely superb. So that is that. Right. So Helen Lederer, an absolutely wonderful lady. One of the best in the West. We all love our Helen Lederer. Right. No, Katie Hopkins in a field. Yes, that was an unfortunate episode. Cocktail evenings. That's what they do. Yes. Well, at the Brasserie, we always had great fun with our cocktail competitions, and we used to get all the local bartenders to compete with one another, and I'd bring in, Helen Lederer or what was her name? Oh gosh, I've forgotten her name. It'll come back to me in a moment. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But we'd have lots of people. We'd have a young man who was in Emmerdale, or a girl who was on Britain's Got Talent, or the footballer woman. I've forgotten her name. Anyway, we had Helen Lederer as one of them. Can't remember all the others. We had a lady who was in EastEnders. We had Sven Goran Eriksson's girlfriend. I forget her name. Gosh, it's very rude of me to forget it. But there we go. You might remember it. The Italian lady. Nancy Dell'Olio. So we'd have either Helen Lederer and Nancy Dell'Olio, and we'd have an evening of cocktails, and everyone would compete, and everyone would have a jolly old time. And that was such a lovely thing to do back in the day. So, yes, we all had fun. Fun is no bad thing. Helen Lederer is something on Mr. Cameron's channel. I don't know. I don't know Mr. Cameron's channel is, but there we go. What tipples do you like to enjoy this evening? Well, at the moment I'm having a bit of wine, but I'll probably return to the whiskey.
Yes, to my Matthew. He's brilliant with his program.
Lady Min's enjoying her wine, and we're all fine. So, Miss Marple, cheers to Miss Marple, and we're getting cheers to Lady Min, and we're getting cheers to everybody. Yes, so cheers and cheers. We are at 2 hours and 13 minutes. So well done to you all for staying this long. Some of you are leaving now.
He's in his book now.
Some of you are leaving, but whiskey and wine, what a hangover. No, not at all.
We don't do hangovers.
Hangovers are for wimps. We don't do hangovers. No. My friend John.
Have another gin.
My friend John Stoddart always says, ibuprofen breakfast. If that's the state you're in, just take a couple of ibuprofen, you'll be fixed, and then pour yourself another gin, because then you'll be bloody fine. So no, I'm not going to be one of these woke people who advocates the, let's go on the green juice diet. No, we don't do green juice. I do drink Yorkshire tea every morning, and I drink at least 2 liters of water every day. I'm very much into water and tea. I do actually like lemonade, but I don't like lemonade in France. I can say that after my very bad experience. I don't drink orange juice because it's full of acid. I like apple juice, but I've not found any of it here yet that's of any good quality. What other juices do I drink? I love ginger shots. Ginger shots, the best. A ginger shot will fix you on any occasion. Ginger will fix anything. If you've got a cold, have a ginger shot and have some chicken soup, and then have a whiskey. That's the best thing in your life. So me and my ginger, ginger tea. I'll drink ginger. Can go in anything. I love ginger. I know that ginger is the best thing to have in life. So I love that. Yes. Right. So I don't drink absinthe. No, it may be green. Yes, that's exactly not the reason. The King's ginger. Oh wow, I love the King's ginger. The only drink invented for drink driving. Everyone should have a bottle of it in their car. It was invented for King Edward VIII, so he could have a motoring drink because he didn't like sloe gin. So they said, "What do you like, sir?" And he said, "I like ginger." So they said, "We'll make you a liqueur." So they made it. It's absolutely wonderful over ice cream. You can't beat the bit of the King's ginger. It's great in champagne. It's great in anything. The King's ginger with a bit of ice. Oh, yes. Lovely after dinner drink. But you can't drink too much of it because it's very potent. It will send you over the edge. But
so what are we having tomorrow?
Well, we're not having the King's ginger. Lady Min wants to know if she could what we're having tomorrow. We can't have the King's ginger because we don't have a bottle. But hello. If you're listening, Ronnie Cox of Wonderful Berry Brothers, we need some King's ginger. But I don't think it'll get here by tomorrow. But everybody who tries it is an addict. Always. Every single person loves the King's ginger. I've never known anyone dislike it. So if you need a drink to drink, buy a bottle. I do not work for the King's ginger, the Berry Brothers and Rudd, but I wholeheartedly endorse you buying it. Don't drink Sambuca. That's dangerous and horrible. It's not very nice. But if you like it, fair enough. It's up to you. Simon Coates likes the King's ginger, yes. You like a cherry Kijaffa. I don't know what a cherry Kijaffa is, but there we go. Right. Stone's ginger ain't bad with a whiskey. Oh, that's not too bad. Ginger wine is very nice. Yes, not too bad. But am I on the number 3 gin? Sadly not, because they don't sell it down here. If I could, I would, but sadly not on this occasion. Ginger is a fizzy drink in Scotland. I have no idea why. I don't know. It's not iron brew, but no. Iron brew is not a drink I like, but, each to their own. If you like iron brew, good for you. That's how it works in life, doesn't it? No, I love to drink, the ginger wine. There's nothing wrong with that. That's okay. But no, King's ginger is the best. But you can't really drink a whole bottle of it. It would be ridiculous. It'd tip you over the edge. So it's a little bit potent. But, Jack Rolfe in Howard's Way, he ended up in the drying out clinic, but he didn't drink a bottle of King's Ginger. So we haven't done the experiment, have we? But I'm not going to be trying that myself. Ginger tea. Yes, I love ginger tea. Very nice. Anyway, moving on from the drinks. What's your next question? Next question, please. Meanwhile, I'll just have to have a little bit of whiskey because I've got nothing else. So there we go. I'll have to have whiskey by itself. And I don't have a problem with people moaning at me that the famous grouse is
got any water in there.
Not a good whiskey, but I like the famous grouse and I like Bell's. So, I love very sophisticated whiskies, but there's no problem with that. This I'll now just drink a little slower because I haven't got my water, but I can't exactly go and get the water, and I haven't got anyone to go and get it for me. So there we go. Do I ever smoke? Did I ever smoke? Yes, I did smoke when I was about 12. Because cigarettes were lying around and I could get access to them. So I thought, well, I'll give it a go. But no, I never really liked it. When I was at school, everybody else smoked because they were just being rebellious. So I'd join in, but I never smoked cannabis. I've never tried cannabis because I just didn't like the smell of it. No, I've never taken cannabis. I've never taken cocaine. I've never tried heroin. I've never tried any of these things. I've never tried ketamine. I've never tried, spice, the new thing. I've never tried any illegal drug. I've only ever been into whiskey, gin, wine, vodka. I'm not really into vodka, but I drink it. Beer, port. Occasionally I like port. I love sherry. Dry sherry. No, I've never tried the illegal drugs, but I would legalize every illegal drug and tax the hell out of it. That's what, if Keir Starmer had an ounce of sense, let's get rid of the drug dealer. Tax the hell out of the drug dealer. Sell it through a pharmacy. Much better way of dealing with it. There we go. Cannabis, it's legal in most countries in the world now. So make it easier. Cocaine, make it easier. Just
marijuana.
Just let them have it, but make it expensive by taxing the hell out of it. That is the way to kill the drug dealer. The drug dealer is the evil person. It's the middle class disease, as the Times wrote a couple of years ago in London, in the smartest parts of London, is not white wine. It's cocaine, because it's too cheap. Cocaine has become cheap. So tax the hell out of it and make it expensive. Then people won't buy it. It'll put them off. So use market forces to beat the drug dealer. Make the drug dealer suffer. Close the drug dealer down. That is my point. Miss Marple is on a Dalwhinnie. Well, you're a lot more sophisticated than me. I wish I were on a Dalwhinnie. I like a Dalwhinnie. I've had those before. Yes. There we go. A bag of cocaine by appointment to His Majesty the King, like Baxter's jam. Well, the Baxters were born to make soup. I did meet the Baxters, lovely people. And Ina Baxter, her phrase in her advertising was always this, she said, "I was born to make soup." And she was the most wonderful maker of soup. Her wonderful lobster bisque and I loved her parsnip soup particularly. And it's a wonderful company from the Highlands of Scotland, from near Inverness, from near, where the Loch Ness Monster we talked of from yesterday, from where I used to go all the time in my childhood. We always used to have a wonderful time. And visiting Ina Baxter's factory, I had a wonderful time as a child, experiencing how she was born to make soup. So there you go. I think that Ina Baxter deserved her royal warrant, and she made the most fantastic of soups for cans. And it's no wonder they're sold the world over, because they are superb soups. Her carrot and coriander was the thing that I used to have most days of my life. I was a little bit obsessed with her soup because it was fantastic. As a child, when I was about 14, 15, I lived on Baxter's soup. When I was skiving off school to do whatever I wanted, at home I would have a tin of Baxter's soup because that's what I wanted. So there we go. And there was always a tin of Baxter's soup lingering somewhere in a cupboard. You could always have the parsnip soup. I loved the parsnip soup. That was one.
We've got the parsnips. You can make it tomorrow.
Yes. Well, we can't make parsnip soup tomorrow, Lady Min, but it won't beat Ina Baxter's soup. But there we go. Right. You love blackberry jam or any jam as long as it's not from Montecito. Yes. Well.
Oh, I love blackberry jam.
Montecito woman is driving the world mad with her jam. She's jamming up the world, isn't she?
Yeah. I don't want to jam.
Lady Min does not want the Meghan Sussex, as she calls herself, which is not her name, jam. Right. You've given up smoking and gone on vapes. They're very addictive. Get off the vapes. Vapes are more dangerous than cigarettes. We were talking about this earlier. I spoke with a man many years ago who helps people who are addicts to cigarettes. The only cigarettes he could not get people off were Camel. So if you're on Camel, you're in big trouble. But if you're not on Camel, go and see somebody because they will get you off it. Camel have a special kind of chemical in their cigarettes that makes it very hard to get off it because it's so addictive. The Camel cigarettes are the most dangerous cigarettes to be smoking, but the packaging looks nicer than everything else, which is part of the way they probably lure you in. So if you're on Camel, I feel very sorry for you, but if you're not, you have a way out if you want to give up. But if you don't want to give up, then don't. If you want to carry on smoking, do what you want. If you want to keep the cancer stick in your hand, keep going. But you said you're on the vapes, but those vape things, they're equally dangerous. And the way they sell them to 13-year-old children, shocking. Absolutely appalling. Yes. You don't like vapes either, Los says. Right. Sam Orama says, my nan smoked Woodbines. Yes. I know people smoke those too. Yes. Christian Adams says, I will not watch you again if you don't answer questions from the general public. Christian Adams, I have answered about 50 questions from people in the audience. What question do you want to ask me, Christian Adams, whoever you may be? You're trying to be provocative. Ask me a question, Christian Adams. Oh, here we go. Bernie Eccleston. Yes. Yes. Hello, you're not Bernie Eccleston. Yes. Right. Okay. Thank you, Bernie Eccleston, for appearing here. Yes. Right. What do I order at PJ's? Oh, yes. Thank you, Troll. Yes. Harriet, please block Bernie Eccleston and the other one. Thank you. A certain son-in-law of Bernie Eccleston once tried to strangle me at PJ's restaurant in Chelsea, London, and now his little troll people are harassing me here. So why don't you do one and bog off, you horrible people? Thank you. You have been banned. I have people here helping me, and we don't have time for any of your nonsense. Sam Palmer, go stick something up your jumper. You're a real pain in the arse, and you're a complete thicko, so why don't you clear off? You've had enough bad publicity lately for all your weird videos, so why don't you go away, Sam Palmer? Stop harassing me. Thank you. There we go. Enough from you. Right. Sorry about that, viewers. Back to something more positive. Right. Next topic. Right. We have a dinner coming up. There will be a dinner when I'm back in London with Stephen Burkoff, because Mr. Burkoff is a wonderful gentleman. And, you know, like I did the dinner with Peter Blexley, it would be nice to do a dinner with Mr. Burkoff and talk about his role in crime stories, the villains he's played and the villains he grew up with. And that's a fascinating story, in my view. So eventually, yes, that will happen. There may be others too, but right. So you would all be welcome. I will keep you all informed via this channel. But please, could you all subscribe to my Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and all that rubbish? So that's another way of easily communicating that information to you. It's the easiest way. It's a candlelight supper. Now, I'm not quite Hyacinth Bucket, but that's what we kind of do. Yes, we have a dinner in the upper area of PJ's restaurants on Fulham Road, London. A wonderful place that was owned by my late friend Brian Stein, a wonderful man who was a very successful restaurateur, polo playing, Harley Davidson riding, brilliant gentleman. You know, he owned the Café de Paris nightclub in Leicester Square. He was chairman of Guards Polo Club. He did many different things. So anyway, it's a wonderful place, and it's been open since 1990, and I love the place. It's probably my favorite bar in the whole of London. Well, it is my favorite bar in the whole of London. You know, my second favorite bar in the whole of London has to be Duke's Hotel, of course, but you know, that's different. That's a very different experience. So you go there for a martini, but there we go. Right. Have I ever been to the Edinburgh Tattoo? I've never been to the Edinburgh Tattoo, but I've been to Edinburgh. Yes, I love Edinburgh. One of the most glorious cities on the whole planet. Yes, you're so pleased to hear me say restaurateur instead of restaurateur. Miss Marple, you are completely correct. People get this so wrong. It is not a person who runs a restaurant is not a restaurateur. They're a restaurateur. That is the correct description. But every time you listen to one of these silly programs, as you say, they say restaurant. Terrible. Do they not have a dictionary? Stupid people. If you're going to be in the profession, you should know what you're called. So there we go. Not very impressed by people who don't know the difference. You should never use a restaurateur. It's rather like you should never use the word toilet. It's terribly common. Common misuse of the language. I've got this brilliant book I've been reading, and I recommend it to you all. Have You Eaten Grandma? Now, there you go. There's another fine point. The cover of the book says it all. Have you eaten grandma? So if you put a comma here, it would be, have you eaten grandma? Which would mean, has grandma had her meal? But without the comma, it's asking, have you actually eaten your grandma? The use of punctuation, the use of the correct language is so important. If you don't use language correctly, you end up with a moronic society. So, Have You Eaten Grandma is a book you should all buy. Buy this book. Giles Brandreth, fantastic. It's a great point of reference. I've read over 250 pages of it. I've nearly finished it. But I will return to it again and again. I don't agree with every one of his points because he's not the queen bee of language. There's Susie Dent out there also. There's all sorts of other people who have differing views on the way. But in that particular case, have you eaten grandma? There is a need for an apostrophe. That is that. So there we go. Right. Punctuation saves lives. Right. Oh, you banned a few people. Well, thank you for banning a few people. Jamie Ann Curry says, we go to Duke's every time we're in London. It's a great spot. Indeed it is. Grammar, the difference between knowing your SH star T and knowing your SH star T. Yes, that's quite correct. Is the London International Sporting Club around? I don't know. I don't know what it is. Right. Duke's looks very fancy. It's a nice place to go. It's a place that you should go once in your life. It was the bar that James Bond would have drunken, yes, because Ian Fleming was a regular there, yes. Margaret Thatcher, King Charles and Diana had drinks there, all sorts of people. There we go. A chaise salon lounge because they thought it was a lounge. The word lounge is another offensive word. Lounge, we have lounges in airports because that's where you sit around and lounge around whilst you wait. But in a house, you don't have a lounge. Lounges are not things that exist. It's a sitting room or drawing room or something else, in my particular view. Right. Nick Ferrari played a cameo role in Octopussy. Well, I don't know if he did, but Nick Ferrari is a radio presenter, but I have met him. I've had dinner with him at Elistano restaurant in Chelsea many years ago, but I don't know if he was in the film Octopussy. No, I've absolutely no idea. Jamie Ann Curry says extraordinary martinis. Yes, well, the number 3 martini, number 3 gin, you should definitely have that at Duke's Hotel. If you can't get in, go to the Stafford Hotel around the corner. Equally not a bad place. Can I ask Stephen Burkhoff what I thought of him, of Stanley Kubrick? And Burkhoff was in Barry Lyndon. Well, Mr. Burkhoff, you will be able to ask him some questions when we have a dinner. So if you would like to come along to the dinner, we would happily invite you along. So, if anyone would like to come to our future dinners we're planning, please email at editorial@thesteepletimes.com, and then we can send you invitations. We will add you to our list, and then you can join the merry throng. The last time we had about 50 people there, and it was a wonderful evening. PJ's put on a wonderful meal, and we have wonderful guests. And you can watch a video of my one with Peter Blexley, or my more recent one where I did it with Claire Rubenstein. And we talked about, Maxwell and McCann and Megan and all sorts of other things. You're very welcome. So please send an email. That would be good. Do I enjoy Samuel Smith's pubs? Well, I can't say I specifically go out looking for a Samuel Smith pub, but I'm sure it's a very nice pub if you get to one. I don't like JD Weatherspoons, no. Right. Harriet would like to go to Duke's with me soon. Well, I hope so. Harriet, I think you deserve a drink at Duke's Hotel for all the help you're giving. You've been very helpful. So, right, there we go. Anyway, we've been going for now 2 hours and 40 minutes, which is quite a long time. Very intense, given I not even moved. Right. If we have a few final questions, we'll go to 2 hours and 50 minutes, and then we'll close this down, I think. Have I visited the new Barbican Hotel in Clerkenwell? I cannot say I have, Bess. Thank you for your thing. What are my thoughts on the moon landings? Well, it's very nice that people are landing things on the moon, but I think there's bigger issues to deal with on our own world, personally. I've never really been into space exploration. It's lovely to look at these things, and it's great that we make huge progress, but we have people who are homeless in this country, in Britain and beyond, and we have all sorts of other problems, like, Keir Starmer harming the farmers. I'd rather solve those problems first, but it's a wonderful thing to make progress. So I'm not anti it, but it's just, I think we should really get our ducks in order. Sorry, I'm not being negative about exploring space. It's just, I don't like seeing people homeless on the street. It's a terrible thing. Can I put the email address in the notes later? Harriet has kindly done this for us. So, Harriet, you're a wonderful moderator of this channel. That's very kind of you. Thank you. So, if you look at what Harriet has written, it's editorial@thesteepletimes.com. It's pretty easy. So there you go. Was IDS too much of a quiet man? Yes. Everyone turned off the volume. He was one of the worst conservative leaders on the planet. No, he was totally useless. And him and his wife, Betsy, she was a bit into her expenses. Lovely. She liked her payroll job. Not someone that I have any respect for. He was the reason I quit the Conservative Party. Didn't like Ian Duncan Smith because I worked for Ken Clarke, and Ken was the most wonderful man who was never leader of the Conservative Party. Decent man. And him and Michael Heseltine and Margaret Thatcher and Alan Clark and all those people of that generation, fantastic. William Hague was a good man, but he wasn't. He came at the wrong time. And Michael Howard, a thoroughly decent gentleman. at least he stood up to that vile Anne Widdecombe. She's one of the worst on the planet. She's ghastly, hectoring, complete lunatic, mad woman who hates fox hunting but wants to bring back the death penalty. She's mad. She's a complete nutter, freak, absolute freak and fruitcake she was. And no wonder she ended up in the Reform Party, but wherever she is now. But, thank God no one even hears of Anne Widdecombe anymore. I'm very glad that she's gone quiet, let's be honest. There we go. Right, who would I like to most dine with, dead or alive? I don't have a favourite in any sense, but of someone I've never met. Right. Oh, gosh. Someone I've never met who I could have dinner with and talk to them. Dead or alive? Oh, gosh. Someone alive. It wouldn't be David Mellor. No, you're all referencing David Mellor. No, definitely not him. You're buying me time here. So you really are. You're not putting me on the spot in a very easy way. Thinking of David Mellor, he's a slug. Right. Someone I could have dinner with who I've never met. Gosh. Alive. Right. I wouldn't mind having dinner with the Reverend Richard Coles, because I think he's a very decent gentleman. I've never met him. Be nice to have dinner with him, just as a pleasant thing. Someone who's alive, someone who's dead, who I've never met. Someone who's dead. Well, the easy answer would be Winston Churchill, but that's just boring. So I'm not going to say that because everybody else would say that. Though I would like to have met him. Who would I have... Oh, gosh. Let me think. The man who said his car could turn on a sixpence, who was the heir to the Armenian oil fortune. I think I'd like to have had dinner with him, and I'm trying to remember his name, and I've forgotten. And I don't know why I've forgotten, because I've written lots about him and his cars. He was the son of Calouste. I'd like to have dinner with him. His name has escaped me. Gosh. Just a moment. I'll have to check. Calouste. Mr. Gulbenkian. I would love to have dinner with Mr. Gulbenkian. There's my answer to you. Yes, Mr. Gulbenkian. Because he was fascinating. Yeah, he would be perfect. His son. Nubar Gulbenkian. Nubar Gulbenkian would be my choice, because Mr. Gulbenkian sued his own father for the cost of a coronation chicken sandwich. It was the most costly sandwich in history, because it cost over £300,000 in libel fees. So that's a fascinating story. It could be talked about over dinner, and I could give you many quotes from the Gulbenkians, and their wonderful book about Mr. 1%, or 5% or whatever it was. They controlled the oil wealth of the world. So, but they made wonderful cars, one of which ended up in, of course, the film With Nail and I with Richard E. Grant. So, it was Uncle Monty's car. So, yes, I would love to have met Nubar Gulbenkian, because he was such an eccentric. I'm fascinated by eccentric people. So there you go.
I read the book.
Yes, Lady Min read the book. So there we go. I read the book too. She read the book in my house. But there we go. Right. So, right. You would have liked to have dinner with Princess Diana. Well, I'm sure many people would, but
What was that?
there we go. So next question. We're coming up towards the hour. I'm going to have a little top up and then I'm going to bed. It's time for me to go to sleep. 11 o'clock at night here, you see, because we're an hour behind. Well, we're an hour ahead. Sorry, you're an hour behind. What do I think about John Podesta? Well, I read all the allegations about the Podesta brothers and the McCanns, and I've never, ever been able to get to the bottom of any of that, so I don't know. But that's been 10 years of hearing about it, so I can't possibly answer your questions about the Podesta brothers, or whether they were involved with Madeleine McCann's parents, or Madeleine McCann's disappearance, or Ghislaine Maxwell, or any of these people. The Podesta brothers and the Clintons and and they were in Portugal and whatever. I can't answer the questions on that. So there we go. Right. Right.
I know about Portugal.
Right. Right. Okay. So, would I have a drink with Ronnie Pickering? Asks Ross. I don't know who Ronnie Pickering is, so that's a strange question. Have I been to Gozo? No, I haven't been to Gozo. Tucked Away. I haven't been to Tucked Away, which is Ghislaine's home. I believe Ghislaine still owns Tucked Away. I have been in touch with the realtor on multiple occasions about Tucked Away. She did purchase Tucked Away, which is a very curious name for a house, in 2018 or before. Tucked Away is a very strange house by all accounts, which of course is why she ended up there. And she tried to cover a mobile phone with a piece of tinfoil because she thought that would make it not work. Nobody would be able to find it. And then she got cross because her cat ran away into the woods and they thought that the bear might kill the stupid cat. She's... Everything with Ghislaine is completely bonkers, so let's just stick with that. And, she spanned the story last week that Donald was going to give her a pardon. Not happened. And today there has been a removal of the justices who were meant to release the Epstein lists because of various reasons. So it's all spinning around. And Ghislaine is not getting what she wants. So Ghislaine is going to throw a few temper tantrums. I think the best chance Ghislaine has is that Ghislaine waits until June, because in June, Ghislaine can apply for a prisoner transfer. And if she applies for a prisoner transfer to Britain, she will serve less time if she's in a British jail. But in a British jail, Can you imagine how they're going to treat her? That snobbish cow. She will get a bit of a beating, and she deserves it. She's a shameful, disgusting manipulator. So, Ghislaine, if you're listening, because you probably are, because you're a horrible person, and you are absolutely sick in the head, and you're warped. You went on Jeremy Kyle whilst in prison. You thought that was a clever idea. That got you a bit of trouble, didn't it? Put you in the hole. Everything you do, Ghislaine, is warped of mind, and your victims deserve to make you suffer and wait. So I hope you're not transferred. And if Donald Trump has any brain, he won't be doing anything. He'd rather just keep you in the hole and leave you there, because you're not getting out before his presidency ends. So it really isn't in his interest to bother with you, is it? You're a stupid Burke, you silly woman. You're an absolute fool. So Ghislaine should just wait. Have I consumed John Sweeney's work on Ghislaine Maxwell? Asked Ross. I have been in a crime conference and spoken with in the public arena with John Sweeney about his book about hunting Ghislaine. He and I have differing views, but we respect one another. So John Sweeney has slightly different views to myself, but I think that his knowledge of Robert Maxwell is probably more intense than my knowledge of Robert Maxwell. So I respect John Sweeney, and he is, focusing on other things in his life right now. He's been very involved in Ukraine. I don't know what else he's doing, but we kind of correspond, but only very occasionally, because he's mostly in Ukraine. So I will say, he and I have debated how Robert Maxwell died. We've sat in a bar and chatted with one another about such topics. And as regards his thoughts on Ghislaine, yes, we agree on some things, but we don't agree on others. But that's the way of research. Different people find different things. So thank you for your point. It's a very interesting point. That was a very good point. Thank you. Right. Maxwell is the new Lee Harvey Oswald. She's a fall guy. Whoever you are, RL77, Ghislaine Maxwell is not a fall guy for anyone. She is the manipulator and the deceiver. So you're entitled to your view. I respect your view, but you're talking a load of horse shit. So next question. Thank you. Right. There's no point me trying to debate whether she's Lee Harvey Oswald. This is not JFK, and she did not kill Jeffrey Epstein, or she wasn't set up in the same way. It's a load of rubbish. That's absolutely the most silly thing I've ever heard. Absolutely rubbish. Right. Weren't she friends with Andy? Ghislaine was a lover of Prince Andrew. She did have sexual relations with him. Yes. She was well known to be visited. She had a special pass to get in and out of Buckingham Palace, so she could drive in and out to go and spend the night with him. And she would leave in the morning. So, yes, she was known to stay the night. You couldn't be clearer than that if it were sexual relations. Right. Next question. You're so glad you never met her. Well, I would say that's all I can say on that front. Anyone who didn't meet her was very lucky. She stayed at Balmoral too. Yes, she stayed at Balmoral. She stayed at Sandringham. She went to parties at Windsor Castle. Ghislaine went everywhere. There aren't many places that Ghislaine hasn't been. She went to Mar-a-Lago. She went to Epstein Island. She went to New Mexico, to the ranch. She went to the New York townhouse. She went to Palm Beach. She had her own she was in Manchester by the Sea, where, of course, I exposed the story of her 8-person shower. Who on earth needs a shower that can take 8 people in it, that has video screens and music systems and Wi-Fi? Why would you have an 8-person shower at a country house? That's a bit odd. Next to your bedroom. It was next to the bedroom, her bedroom. 8 people. So what was she doing in this thing other than having orgies? The woman is sick. She's mentally ill. In London, she claimed the bathtub was too small for sexual relations. Myself and the Daily Mail, and I was the one that did it single-handedly. I got the photograph that proved that her bathtub was a full-sized bathtub. I can't remember the dimensions right now, but a bathtub of a standard size measures a certain distance. She claimed it was a minute bathtub. She lied because I got the measurements, because I got inside the house. Stupid woman. And she lied to the FBI and said there is no way Prince Andrew could have had sexual relations in the bathtub because it was a non-standard bathtub. Well, it was a standard bathtub. So I proved to the world the truth. I was the person that did that. I found that smoking gun. She lied. The bathtub was not too small for anything. And anyway, it doesn't matter what size anything is. People can do anything in whatever they want. If they want to do something, they'll do it anyway, won't they? If they're doing something deviant. But she specifically lied about the size of this bathtub, thinking that would be the solution to her problem. The woman is a complete fruitcake because she doesn't realize that, wrapping your mobile phone up in a bit of tin foil won't stop it transmitting where you are, because that's how they found her, stupid cow. And that you move to a house called Tucked Away and you fake a photograph with your lawyer, Leah, which you put it yourself at an In-N-Out burger restaurant when you're a vegan, and you have in the background a bus shelter with a fake advert that was never at that bus shelter. Does that not show that you're completely crooked of mind, A, and you're prepared to do anything to get away with it? And you've got your lovely man, Ross Gow, your spokesperson. Now, let's talk about Ross Gow one day. We won't talk about him tonight, but Ross Gow, yeah, let's be having you, Ross. Where are you, PR spokesman? You're an interesting character. You're on all these lists. Man up, big up, and show up. And as for you, Brian Basham, yes, let's talk to Brian again. Yes, I'm very happy to return to the topics of these people who've threatened me. Brian wanted to threaten to come and attack me and speak to me at a crime conference and try and confront me about people that I knew. Well, where are you, Brian? Let's be having you. Let's be having you. All of you. I'm not scared of any of these people. So, no, let's start this again. Let's have them come and talk to me. if you're watching Brian or Ross, I'm happy to speak with you.
What about this Sam Palmer?
So, as for Sam Palmer, yep, you stop stirring the pot. You leave James Stunt alone. He's been cleared. What are you, Sam Palmer? You're a piece of scumbag. It's time you were dealt with. So, Sam Palmer, let's be having you, and Jay Rutland, you little rat. Tamara Eccleston as well. Horrible, horrible woman. Anyway, I'm not scared of any of these people. They may have money, some of them. They may live off other people's money, some of them, because, Sam Palmer doesn't have any money. If he had any money, it comes from being married to a billionaire's daughter, So, man up, grow up, and show up, you little rat. So I'm not scared of any of you people. And that is my message to you. So there we go. Them's fighting words, Matthew, says Celia. Well, it's not fighting. I just don't like people who tell lies and are deceivers. And Sam Palmer has been protected by the Metropolitan Police, who have been utterly cowardly towards me. He was convicted of an offence of trying to strangle me in a restaurant. So, he is a criminal. He's a convicted criminal, and he admitted his offence. And I want to know what the offence was, and I want it exposed, and I want it in the public eye. So I'm not going to shut up about it now, because now James Stunt has been cleared in the courts of law. I don't think I need to be silent anymore about this, because it doesn't prejudice his case. It's nothing to do with him. It is to do with him, obviously, because I would never have been involved if I hadn't known him. But Sam Palmer is a stain on humanity, a vile, repugnant piece of toe rag. So he should stop making his ghastly videos. He should shut up and go away. Awful, awful person. Embarrassment. If I were Bernie Eccleston, and, he called the other son-in-law various things. Come on, Bernie. You got worse with this one. You go from the dregs to the dregs with all of your nonsense that you get yourself involved in. And lovely story you had about selling your cars. Convicted criminal fraudster Bernard Eccleston, you coffin-dodging crook. And I can say that because you are a convicted criminal fraudster. You are on a suspended 17-month jail sentence, Bernard. So don't you even have a go at me. Of course you will, because you're sending all your little trolls to try and harass me here. Well, good. Doesn't bother me. Am I scared? Don't worry about it. There we go. Anyway, enough about them. Boring people. Anyway, Lady Min asked me to have a word about Palmer. That's my word about Palmer. Palmer is not a good person. Absolutely appalling. Just look up Sam Palmer's history. Look up Jay Rutland's history in the City of London. Just Google his court records.
Oh, what about Petra?
I don't have anything to say about Petra on this particular occasion, but Tamara is, the woman who took that poor thing out of the forest and put it in a house. That's disgusting. Leave the animals alone, Tamara. You're disgusting. What you do is, the modern day Bet Lynch that you are. You're absolute creep. Taking a thing out of the forest. Not nice. Your children don't need a plaything of a poor sloth, a creature, a beautiful sloth. Sloths don't like humans. they like to be left alone in the forest, and you put it in your townhouse in Kensington. Are you mental? Or are you just manipulative? Or are you just horrible? That poor animal must have been terrified by what you did to it. You're disgraceful. That's a wild animal. And yes, people have licenses to have these things, but it does not mean that it's right to put it in an urban setting, in a house with central heating. You are crazy. You've thought, oh, my little children could have a bit of fun with a sloth. Poor sloth. And you put pictures of it on the internet. Now, that makes it worse because you just did it for a bit of publicity, like you do everything else. Tamara, tepid Tamara, you are a twerp. And what you did to that poor animal, I hate people who abuse animals. You're nearly as bad as Richard Madeley, who thinks all elephants were born evil. Because someone came up to me about that question again the other day. He came out with that. You put a sloth in a house in Billionaires Row, your Kensington Palace Gardens mansion. That is appalling. What do you think, Lady Men? Putting a sloth. It belongs in the rainforest of Brazil. It does not live in Kensington Palace Gardens in your sitting room. And you had it as a plaything for your horrible children to play around with. Shame on you. And as for you, Palmer, you tried to strangle me, and you were given a community order. So why don't you put a sock in it, you pain in the arse? If you want to appear on my channel again, harassing me, sending comments, don't worry. I'll be making further complaints to the Metropolitan Police about you because you are harassing me yet again, Palmer. So Palmer is a person who I really am not scared of. The Daily Mail's Richard Eden was going to write an article, but he didn't bother because he wasn't allowed to, because, I'm sure something happened with him. Other people at the Daily Mail have been very supportive. So, Palmer, bog off. Right. Anyway, that's enough of Palmer and Eccleston. I don't need to talk anymore. But yes, we quite agree. It was so wicked about the poor sloth. Right. Yes. Right. There we go. No, you cannot abuse beautiful animals like that and put them in houses with central heating on and have children crawling all over them. They don't like to be touched. They're solitary animals. The big issue in the story of the sloth is that the sloth is a solitary creature. The sloth doesn't like to be touched by anything. It's why it lives in the trees. And these stupid people took pictures of it with her children crawling all over the poor creature. Leave the creature alone. It should never have been there. It was probably terrified. That's animal abuse. It's appalling, sickening, disgusting. But, with Tamara Eccleston, she'll do anything for a story. She'll talk about breastfeeding her child age 5, or she'll go on Loose Women and say, oh, people say horrible things about me on the internet. Oh, I'm just the daughter of a billionaire. Well, Mrs. Eccleston Rutland, or whatever you're called, and your lovely art gallery. Well, we all know about the bloody art gallery. Yeah, that's an interesting concept. I'll leave it at that. You really are a desperado. Loose Women. No wonder you're on that program. Linda Robson, Gloria Hunniford, that kind of class of person. That's who you want to hang around with. Says a lot about you. Anyway, good luck to you, love. Hope you have a nice time, modern day Bet Lynch. Anyway, that's the end of that. So there we go. We've talked about them. There we go. Sloths. Right. What a bitch, says Bess. I couldn't possibly say I didn't agree. There we go. She wanted an animal that reminded her of her father. That's actually quite funny, but no, that's Cruel to the Sloth. The sloth is far more attractive than Bernard. So there we go. Would I debate Peter Hitchens on drug legislation? Sparks could fly. Peter Hitchens would certainly not agree with my views on drugs. No, Peter Hitchens would be very angry with me. I had lunch once with Peter Hitchens when I was at university because a friend of mine at university organized a debate with Peter Hitchens and many other people. I don't know who else was in the particular debate. There were like 5 or 6 people. It may have been gosh, what was her name? I forget names very easily. It may have been Bianca Jagger. I think she may have been there. I don't know who else, but we did have a lunch, and I didn't find his views to my liking. And then, of course, I met his brother Christopher in San Francisco, and I had a great time chatting with him. He was a bit bonkers, but he's now dead. But he was wonderful company, and I sat chatting with him for about 5 hours in the middle of the night at a bar in the North Beach, and he was fascinating. And I was with him and Sean Penn, and we talked about the war in Iraq because that was going on at the time, and all of those things, and fascinating company. I much preferred Christopher Hitchens to Peter Hitchens, and Peter Hitchens is just an angry man. He's male online exclusive, male exclusive, or whatever you call it, male plus, and he just does anything to provoke the bear. He's a poker. He just wants a row. There are good people in the world, and there are bad people in the world, and I'm sorry I was provoked into talking about Sam Palmer and the Ecclestons, but sometimes you have to speak about them. What's Bet Lynch done? No, it's just that the Eccleston girl dresses like Bet Lynch, that's all. She's got the same kind of crappy clothing. That was all. Who harmed a giraffe? That was a horrible woman called Merrilies Van der Meer, and Lady Min really doesn't like Merrilies Van der Meer.
What?
Merrilies Van der Meer, the giraffe harmer. The lady who shot the giraffe.
Oh, God, no.
We dealt with her. We got her banned from YouTube because we got her on a technicality. We got her on misuse of.
She has the mentality of an Afrikaner.
We got her on the misuse of other people's music. That was the only way to get rid of her. Larissa Switlick is another of the same type who goes around harming endangered species. Particularly, she kills like the last 3 goats alive or whatever of a species. But she gets away with it. She does it all via Instagram, and Instagram don't seem to have policies. But YouTube have policies when it concerns music. So we got Merrilies Van der Meer banned on the basis of her misuse of music, because she used a man called Johnny somebody or other, Scatterlings of Africa. She was using his music, so we were able to get her horrible shooting the giraffe for Valentine's Day video removed. Do I prefer Bet Lynch or Mick Lynch? I think I prefer Bet Lynch, obviously. Bet Lynch was a nice character, but Mick Lynch, no thanks. No. Why do sloths have Beatles haircuts? Well, they do look a bit like Bernie Eccleston, yes. But there we go. Right. Right. I'm being told I look like I've been dead for a month. Oh, well.
Been what?
I'm being told by one of these trolls that I look like I've been dead for a month.
Been drunk for a month.
Dead. And I should get some funeral makeup on.
I've been with him all day.
Well, I don't feel I've been dead for a month, and I don't need to put funeral makeup on. So,
And he has not been drunk for a month.
no, dead.
Huh?
Dead.
Dead.
It's a troll. It's one of Sam Palmer's little comments. So there we go.
From him.
Yes. Thank you, Sam Palmer, for your latest input under your fake name. You can keep coming in under your fake name and do what you want, but I look like Gene Hackman's wife. Oh no, no, that's not me. No, I was told that I looked like I was dead for a month. I thought you were referring to the same thing. Hey,
What's he
Tiggers.
look like?
Well, he doesn't really.
I saw him. He's the ugliest looking thing on God's earth.
Right. No, anyway, thank you. Hey, Tiggers. You're not, or hey, Tigers.
I was there when he tried to strangle you.
Well, there we go. Anyway, let's not talk any further about him. The troll has been banned. Thank you, Harriet. Yes, another one gone. Oh, it's quite nice to be here for 3 hours and 20 minutes to deal with these little reprobates. They've nothing better to do with their lives, have they? They must just be waking up in Los Angeles, where they can sit in their little sauna or whatever he does and play on his little iPad or whatever he does, because he does his little rant. Right, good. Anyway, I shall shortly go to bed because it is nearly 11:30 here, which is time definitely to go to sleep. So
London time?
No, 11:30 this time here.
Okay, I need a glass of wine.
Yes, well, I can't get a glass of wine for Lady Min until I turn this thing off, because that's where we are. But right, are you the only one addicted to watching police interrogations? I can't say. Having been through many encounters with the police in different situations, as a witness and whatever else, I don't enjoy chatting with the police. No. Nothing is ever fun with chatting with the police, because most of them are useless, other than Peter Blexley. Now, Peter Blexley is an exception to the rule. He's a wonderful man, and you can watch my video with him on YouTube. So please go back and watch the video with my interview with Peter Blexley. He doesn't take any prisoners. He can't stand the woke. He can't stand the Metropolitan Police. He can't stand the lies, the corruption, the deviancy. He speaks the truth. So go back and watch my video. It's a professionally made video as opposed to me talking to you late and large. And as Hey Tiggers says, I don't know if you're Hey Tiggers or Hey Tigers. You'll have to correct me. Peter Blexley is great. Blex is a proper geezer, says Ross. Well done. Elizabeth has watched it. It was very good. Hey Tigers is tiger as in the animal. So your hay tigers. Right. Okay. Well, we've reached 3 minutes and 23. And I'm going to say thank you ever so much for your kind participation, your kind generosity, your kind listening, your good spirits. And I'm going to say good gardening and good night. And thank you to you all. Pip, pip. Goodbye.